Thank you, Council. We'll begin. We'll call the meeting to order, the regular City Council meeting for June 20th, 2023. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. It's good to hear so many voices. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Miriam Abadamos.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Moving on now to report on closed session, confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mayor and council, members of the public, your council convened in open session at 5:30 p.m. to address the items agendized for closed session consideration, and after ascertaining that there were no comments on the matters agendized for closed session consideration, you did adjourn to closed session also at 5:30 p.m. You concluded the closed session at 6:29 p.m. And with respect to each of the matters agendized for closed session consideration, both existing litigation and anticipated litigation, there will be a written report upon return from closed session consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 54-957.1B. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council members?
No, sir.
Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll continue with our agenda. We're now at proclamations and presentation. Proclamation honoring Sherry Cassidy for 20 years of public service. This is indeed a very special occasion. City of American Canyon Proclamation honoring Sherry Cassidy for 20 years of dedicated service. Whereas Sherry Cassidy began her service to the City of American Canyon on December 9, 2002, as an administrative clerk 2 in the Public Works Department, Streets. She was promoted on September 10, 2005 to administrative assistant and to administrative technician on February 9, 2019. And whereas Sherry has served 4 different departments over the years, including Public Works, Community Development, Parks and Recreation, Maintenance and Utilities. And where Sherry was an expert on city policies and procedures, having played an integral part of the evolution of city operations as community grew. According to several office relocations and openings of new facilities, chairing Safety Committee, development and implementation of new policies and administrative procedures to address the increasing complexity of city operations. And whereas Sherry was staff supported for many years to Parks and Community Services Commission and Open Space Advisory Committee, she was part of the implementation of new technologies and systems that became part of the routine American Canyon City operations, including the Records Retention Program, Granicus, Laserfish, ActiveNet, the city website, and social media. And whereas Sherry has played a role in a number of community events, including opening of the City Hall, right here, Veterans Memorial Park, Shenandoah Park, the water treatment plant, the annual volunteer recognition ball, and the community garden. Where Sherry was recognized by members of the community and staff for going the extra mile and being an important part of the team willing to assist whenever and wherever she could across city departments and operations. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of American Canyon hereby recognizes and thanks Sherry Cassidy upon her retirement for loyal and generous public service to the city for more than 20 years. Thank you, Sherry. let me present this for you. Oh, I think I have it.
Council and members of the community, I just want to say thank you. It's been my honor. Sorry. It's been my honor to serve this community and this community only. This community supported me in times where I was sick and I didn't know if I was going to make it. And my coworkers and the community have been awesome. So I just want to say with my deepest heart, I love American Canyon and I always will. Now my darn makeup's all screwed up. Thank you.
Well, you know, you're very special to us.
Thank you. You know, I was thinking, I was sitting here in the audience and I was thinking, you know, I'd really like to see the mayor do the Gundam for me again like he did. Not counting. Not yet. I still need more sleep. Yeah. DJ, would you like to come up? Really? Did you see my tears? My first city manager. Yeah, I know, right? All for me.
Well, Sherry, you carry so many great memories with you, and for us as well. So again, thank you for your years of service to all of us. Next is presentation of the Fair Housing Napa Valley Annual Report. Good evening. Welcome, Mr. Sutterain.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Good evening, everyone. My name is Pablo Zatterin. I'm the Executive Director of Fair Housing Napa Valley, and this is Patty James, our amazing program manager. Good evening, Mayor Garcia and American City Council members and staff. I'd like to start first by thanking you for the opportunity to report on our agency's work on behalf of American Canyon residents over the last year, and for the city's continued support of Fair Housing Napa Valley's programs and missions. FHNV is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation dedicated to promoting and developing fairness and equality of housing opportunities for all people. The agency's services include information, referral, investigation, mediation, and housing counseling to both landlords and tenants throughout Napa County. Fair Housing Napa Valley has two primary programs: investigation and enforcement of fair housing complaints, that is, allegations of housing discrimination, and landlord-tenant housing counseling, which regards more common housing-related inquiries such as notices to vacate, rent increases, lease issues, and maintenance-related complaints. Both programs are offered to all county residents, including individuals and households living with subsidies or in mobile home parks, as well as housing providers. The funding FHNV receives from the City of American Canyon supports our agency's landlord-tenant program, while the agency's fair housing program is funded by grants from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. All agency programs promote housing opportunities and resources for members of protected classes, who also comprise a large portion of the county's low-income residents. The agency's programs prioritize assisting low-income residents and members of the county's most vulnerable populations, including seniors, disabled households, families with children, and the Latinx community with their housing needs and inquiries. This work also promotes and directly supports most aspects of the city's housing elements goals regarding housing for special needs by assisting the aforementioned members of protected classes with their various related needs. Lastly, given the current state of rental housing in Napa County and American Canyon, much of the agency's current work is preventative in nature to ensure that housing for clients is preserved wherever possible, preventing evictions and displacement, and eliminating the need, at least for some, to seek alternate housing and risk homelessness. This has become an even more urgent priority in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, which exacerbated challenges and risks to housing security for too many American Canyon and Napa County residents. Over the past year, FHNV programs assisted over 120 American Canyon residents through direct counseling. 81% of those inquiries were regarding a landlord-tenant matter. Additionally, Latinx families represented the majority of American Canyon residents assisted at 52%, while BIPOC residents accounted for 87% of all assisted clients originating from the City of American Canyon. Nearly half of all open cases included the presence of an individual with a disability, while exactly half of all households assisted included 3 or more household members, indicating the presence of children. A third of all inquiries were made by a senior household, and 80% of all inquiries opened by American Canyon residents were at or below the low-income threshold. These figures highlight the agency's focus on serving members of protected classes and our community's most vulnerable residents. Local government funding has provided Fair Housing Napa Valley with the necessary resources to effectively implement and carry out its landlord-tenant program, allowing other resources to support our other programs. Your continued support, along with that of other local government partners, will assist FHNV in sustaining its landlord-tenant program at current levels and adapting it to the needs of its clients. While the primary mission of this agency will continue to be to eliminate housing discrimination and promote equal housing opportunities, Fair Housing Napa Valley also realizes the severity of the rental housing crisis facing thousands of residents, particularly in the aftermath of the pandemic and the wildfires over the last few years. Through effective implementation of its programs, this agency will continue to address the effects of this crisis, most notably displacement, on families and households in American Canyon and Greater Napa Valley. As additional or new needs are identified among our clients, FHNV will strive to meet and adjust to those needs to serve all residents as effectively as possible. With the necessary resources, our programs will remain flexible and able to meet the increasing client demand with a broad range of housing services. While we continue working to progress and improve as an agency, I am proud of our progress thus far. The hard work and dedication of our staff and board of directors has truly been the driving force behind the tangible progress made by FHNV, and I would not be here in front of all of you today without their efforts and sacrifices to improve as a team and organization. With the support and partnership of local government partners like American Canyon, our staff has both the resources and empowerment to actively assist clients and collaboratively address their complaints when needed. This year marked the 55th anniversary of the passing of the Federal Fair Housing Act, and also the same milestone for the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. During Fair Housing Month in April, which this council graciously recognized, as well as our agency, we remembered the sacrifices of so many to ensure that we have the ability to continue to advocate for our community's most vulnerable populations and strive for equal housing choice in a more inclusive society for all residents every day. While much remains to be done to make this a reality, FHNV is honored to serve the City of American Canyon in this capacity. I'd like to finish by again thanking Mayor Garcia, the American Canyon City Council, and staff for your continued support of our agency and its mission. We look forward to continuing to serve the residents of American Canyon for many years to come. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Zatarain, we certainly do appreciate and thank you for all the services you provide. I think we cannot think of anything more important than somebody to be housed and have a roof over their head. So thank you for the work you do. Thank you. We'll move on now to any questions from the council on this? Seeing none, okay, thank you all. We'll move on now to public comments and not on closed session or open session agenda. Any comments received?
I have no cards for items not on the agenda. I do have a hand raised online.
Okay,
Okay, I've got Justin Hamilton Hole. Go ahead, Justin.
good evening, Justin, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, City County. This is Justin Holt. I live in American, my life. I want to shout out. I hope you will have a nice summer break. I hope this is a summer break, so I'm gonna say, wish you all have a great summer break.
Thank you, thank you. We really appreciate that. Very good, anything further?
I have no other hands raised.
Okay, we'll close public comment on this. One over here.
Speak one little bit?
Certainly, yes. Now's your time.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. I just want to thank the Brenda Knight for a great Juneteenth celebration this weekend. It was wonderful to see the people out there. I brought my dad out, which was really nice. Some people there knew him. And so I just wanted to thank Brenda Knight and the council for allowing this to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That was, in fact, a very great celebration for all the community and many visitors from out of town. Please go ahead.
Beth Marcus, sorry I didn't fill out a card. I just thought of something when I was sitting here. This is more for Chief Greenberg. I just have a question or a request. Is there anything that can be done for the trucks that pull off the side of the road on Broadway and Poco Way? Because I think they get their coffee or whatever. And it's really hard if you're trying to go out and get on the highway. Just a request. You don't have to answer me.
Any other speakers from the public? Very good, thank you. We'll close public comment at this time and move on to agenda changes. If there's no agenda changes, council, I accept a motion to accept the consent calendar.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. Moving on to public hearings. There are no public hearings this evening. Next item is business item number 14. Project labor agreement with Napa Salama Building and Construction Trades Council. Before we begin, I do need to disclose that I had a telephone conversation today with Dan McCullough and with Danny Bernardini regarding their perspective on this matter. Any other council comments or phone calls received?
I had a conversation with Ken Miller with the Ironworkers, Rick Hess, who's a local developer, as well as Danny Bernardino.
Okay.
I got a call from Daniel McCulloch, but didn't get a chance to call back.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a call with Rick Hess. I had a call with John Riley. I had a call with Danny Bernardini. I had a call with Dan McCulloch. And is it Julia? Help me out with the sheet metal workers. Alicia, I'm sorry. Yeah, Alicia as well. Thank you.
And I also had a call with Dan McCullough, spoke with Rick Hess. Danny left me a message. I wasn't able to get it back to Danny. And those are the only ones I spoke to.
I also spoke to Danny Bernardini, Ken Miller, and Jason from the Ironworkers. I wasn't able to get back to Dan McCullough either.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Or Rick Hess, he called me too.
Very good. Just before we begin this matter, we do have a 7:30 meeting, so it's a bit of a tight schedule here. We have roughly half an hour to have this conversation tonight. And as I would, in my preliminary remark, I said, the two individuals I talked to discussed their perspective on this matter to be taken up by State Council. With that, we'll take this up. Mr. Hawley?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public. A project labor agreement is a pre-hire collective bargaining agreement between one or more labor organizations. And it, in this case, would involve the City of American Canyon and the contractors that we hire for our public projects. The purpose of such an agreement is to facilitate the delivery of projects with minimal labor-related disruptions and or delays to the project. After receiving a presentation back in August of 2019 from the Napa Solano Building and Trades Council, the City Council at the time directed staff to come back and bring an item related to a citywide project labor agreement. And that's what's before you this evening. Things got put on hiatus a little bit during the pandemic, and we began discussions last summer with the council about bringing this agreement forward. In the meantime, and kind of as a test case, we included collective bargaining language in our ongoing Green Island Road undergrounding project. That project is under construction as we speak. And just note that that project was awarded to a contractor. It was under budget and continues to proceed as a pretty good project. We did have some scheduling delays due to the rain that we had this winter, but everything else related to that project seems to be going well. And as a result of that experience and our experience with the NG project, which wasn't PLA directly with the council, but was directly with electrical unions, we had a positive experience there. And so we're bringing this concept forward as a kind of 5-year test case. The term of the agreement is 5 years. And the purpose of that 5-year agreement is to develop some data. A lot of interest in this particular item tonight. And there's a lot of discussions, a lot of points, and a lot of information on everyone's side. Everyone seems very, very sure that their data and facts are accurate. But what we're interested in doing is putting together a kind of a test case to see about the facts in American Canyon and the facts with our particular capital program. So the plan is for the next 5 years to implement this PLA, and the kind of projects that we have, these city projects, are generally going to be kind of meat and potatoes, heavy civil type projects, pipelines, asphalt projects, concrete, ADA ramps, that sort of thing. There won't be very much vertical construction, at least not in our future, and these only apply to the city projects. These will be projects that are estimated to cost more than $200,000. That would be the threshold proposed. And so there'll be some projects on the lower end, $500,000 range, and there'll be some projects, for example, the second phase of Green Island could be north of $8 million. So the idea is over that 5-year time period to kind of create a test case, maybe a dozen or so projects, could be more, that will have some very specific examples. Were the projects in line with the engineer's estimate? Did they proceed on schedule? Were there any issues? And we'll have a data set for ourselves and for the council at the end of that 5 years to decide whether the rollover that would continue on for the future, or whether the council felt like we wanted to end the agreement. So that was the purpose of this kind of test case. The $200,000 limit is set up to align with the what's known as the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act, the CUPCA, and so we're actually going to be bringing a separate item related to CUPCA later this year that allows some more informal contracting processes up to that threshold. So that's where we set that threshold there. In general, these projects are not, if contractors are not part of the union or signatories to the union, they're not prohibited from bidding on projects. They are required to sign the agreement to be bound and to have their labor that way, but they're not prohibited from bidding on projects. So just wanted to make that clear for the council. And the staff report notes, again, some of the other benefits there on page 126 of the PLA. With that, like I said, the council had already received a presentation in 2019, and certainly able to answer any questions that you might have, but we do know there's definitely some public speakers here who have some perspective. So unless there's any questions for the council at the moment that I can answer, probably best if we get to the public comment.
Questions from council? Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, just quickly kind of following up on the whole idea that this is essentially a test. So I would like, because I know there isn't language that specifically says we'll hire locally, but as we track these cases, one of the issues that I would like to see is just monitoring that. How many local, how many workers were hired that lived either in our jurisdiction or nearby, and be able to compare that to private sector projects so that we can have a baseline. Any cost savings or savings in time, change orders. I guess the idea is I'm hoping that we will end up with some good empirical data that we can say this is why we want to continue it or not continue it or expand it and so forth. So I'm excited about this opportunity, and I think it's the best way to be able to resolve that age-old issue, because every union member will tell you a PLA is the best thing, and every developer will tell you it's terrible. So I think if we spend 5 years experimenting with ourselves, we'll know what the answer is for us. So I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Other comment from council? I think we, as a council, have been very supportive of project labor agreements. We see that as the essential way to be fair to labor and working families. I think the substance of I will put it now of my conversations, and please, Mr. McCullough, if I get it wrong, let me know. You expressed the carpenters' disappointment that they were not included in this project labor agreement. Okay, very good. And Mr. DiBardini commented that the contract, the carpenters union had exited from the Central Labor Council. Is that correct? Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, I just want to make sure that I relay that information correctly to everyone. I think it has worked well for us, and I think if I reflect back on it, some of you may know that we were the first jurisdiction in Napa County to agree to a project labor agreement. I think it speaks to quality of work done and timely delivery, and we have certainly experienced that to our great benefit. So thank you for that. Councilmember Washington, you have a comment?
Yeah, just real quick. Actually, I wasn't on the council in 2019 when that first vote was brought on. So a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing now and I'm learning and understanding is from what I've been reading as of late. And although I have an initial understanding of the Trade Council's views and agendas, I also heard a lot from smaller contractors, and I'm evaluating their views on that as well. So I look forward to hearing what the speakers tonight have to say. But I just want to let everyone know that I'm listening to every side of this topic because again, I wasn't on council in 2019. So I look forward to what all the Dannies are going to be talking about today.
All right. Any other council comment? Okay, anything further from Mr. Hawley, city staff?
No, Mayor, I think public comment would be appropriate.
Okay, I would like please to consider, we do have another session here coming up at 7:30, so, but public comment is open. Maybe we could alternate one side or the other if that works, if you wish to do that. But the agenda is open. Public comment is open.
I'm going to call you Brian Voss.
Good evening, council. Good evening, mayor and everybody. I just want to say I'm a union carpenter. I am a resident of American Canyon and have been for 2 years, almost 2 years. And I just want to say I'm opposed to the PLA. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Francisco Martinez.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Francisco Martinez. I'm a field rep with the Carpenters Union. I've been for 9 years, and I'm a resident of American Canyon for 25 years. I would be very disappointed at my council if they decide to go ahead and support the building trades to exclude the Carpenters Union, because we represent at least 60% of all the work on the cover projects. So I will ask you, please, do not proceed with this. Thank you.
Thank you. We have speaker card from Central Labor Council.
Pardon me?
Central Labor Council, could we hear the other side?
It doesn't, I only have the names, I'm sorry.
Okay, you're good with that? Okay, next speaker card, please.
Danny Bernardini.
Here you are.
Check, check. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, everyone in the room. My name is Danny Bernardini. I'm the business manager for the Napa Solano Building Trades. I represent 15 union construction affiliates, the working men and women of Napa County. I want to first commend you on taking that first step a few months ago on approving Green Island Road. The staff report beautifully relayed that it did come in, I believe, about 75,000 under. And yeah, we did have a bit of a couple months of storms there, and we're looking forward to that getting finished. You know, I'm here tonight. It's supposed to be a celebration of all the working men and women of Napa and Solano County that don't have to cross a bridge to go to work, that cut their commute time by a couple hours. And it is unfortunate that we do have some speakers here tonight speaking against this. It's pretty conspicuous that they were not here 4 months ago when we approved that Green Island project, because they were a part of it. The reason you're going to hear from the Carpenters tonight is because they chose to leave our council. They chose to disaffiliate. We understand the reason they did so. It's a fight that's taking place in other places rather than here, and we're dealing with the overflow tonight. We've continued to work with the Carpenters on existing PLAs. We have a professional relationship during our pre-jobs. Any PLA that they had previously signed, we've honored, and they've been part of it, and we have a great working relationship. I won't say I'm surprised, but I was caught off guard this morning. We've been, as Jason can attest, and legal staff, we've been talking about this for a few months now, and this is the first we're hearing of it. Timing is everything. You know, it's, I recognize a lot of these people are going to speak tonight. I recognize the workers in the crowd, because they're usually here in a chamber talking about passing a PLA, and they're usually here in support of it. They chose to leave our council, and I'm telling you, and I'm telling them, which I've told them several times, the door is open. They are allowed to come back to our council. Once they do, we can do a side letter, we can do an amendment to the document that hopefully will be approved tonight, and they'll be welcomed back with open arms. That's out there. They have chosen not to. Hopefully, in the future, they do. We'll see. But that is why. It's a very black and white issue. If they were in our council, they'd be part of it. There are several unions that do construction that are not part of our council. They are not part of our PLAs for that reason. Once you become a member of our council, there are benefits. There is a reason to be in there. You have a seat at the table. We have brotherhood. We have sisterhood. We're all going the same direction. Unfortunately, they chose to go another direction. Tonight, we're here to talk about the 15 unions that are still in our council, that still have working members, that are still looking forward to building your projects on time, under budget, as we talk about all the time, right? So I appreciate your time. You're gonna hear from a lot of folks tonight. Just remember, we're here for the working men and women, and that's what we're about. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Keith Diaz.
I left the other 4 pages on my desk there. Good evening. I'm Keith Diaz with Sheet Metal Workers, Local 104. I'm a business rep for Sheet Metal Workers. Our training center is just right over the hill there. I'm here today to talk about for you guys to vote in favor of the PLA. I ran our apprenticeship program for 11 years, and this will bring more opportunity for our apprentices to put them to work. We bring in the youth, and everybody say we got to get more involved in the trades, and we want to show off our training programs. This is a pathway to the middle class, and we do not want to, exclude anybody from anything. We're here to, we can make an amendment, sign a letter, whatever. We can make this happen. This could be a great project, and we could bring everything and everybody back together on this. So we just want this PLA to move forward, just like, kind of was going, and I just urge you guys to vote in favor of it tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Donald Ortiz.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Donald Ortiz. I'm a journeyman sheet metal worker with Local 104, a local resident, and I'm here to talk to you about the benefits of a project labor agreement that will be referred to hereafter as a PLA. I'm one of a few thousand local construction workers who have a lot to lose or gain from such a great action being considered by the American City Council. Canyon. A PLA with this fine city helps to garner hundreds of new middle-class careers via the apprenticeship opportunities it requires. Apprenticeship will have on-the-job experience. You'll get training to set them and their families up to be comfortably in the middle class within your community. By voting in favor of this PLA tonight, you're investing in the economic development of your community by requiring that your residents get considered first, and you ensure your constituents get to build their community. And that's an honor. When we're helping to build the community we live in, that means we aren't on the freeways for 3-4 hours per day driving to places like Santa Clara or even further south sometimes, because that's where the work is. This action will keep us local and help reduce traffic congestion, at the same time allowing us to spend valuable time with our children and other family members. Thank you for your service to your community, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Speakers from the,
Just got names.
oh, you just have names?
I just have names.
All right. Yeah, I guess we're going to go through names so somebody has a better idea of doing this thing. We're going to go with it.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. I'm
Just-
just trying to be fair to both sides. Next name, please.
Jessica Owens.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia and council. To start, I would like to thank all of you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Jessica Owens, and I'm an apprentice carpenter and also a local resident. I have been a part of the Carpenters Union for the past 5 years, and it's honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made. Not only did I get a rewarding career, but also a better quality of life for myself and my children. I am here to express my frustration and concerns. It's honestly surprising to me that you as a council are locking out one of the largest and most progressive trade unions, locking out the union that not only gave me opportunity as a female in the industry, but gave me tools I needed to succeed and grow. The Carpenters are at the forefront of supporting and empowering women in the construction industry, and to exclude them from any agreement regarding construction in this city is appalling to me. A better approach would be pre-qualification language that is inclusive rather than exclusive for all contractors, with the emphasis on women and minorities. Why are we locking out opportunities instead of opening possibilities? We need to be finding solutions for inclusivity on these projects, not barriers to push away your communities. I urge you as a city council to reject this PLA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Palomo.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Chris Palomo, and I'm a field rep with the NorCal Carpenters Union. Today, I stand before you to shed light on a critical decision that the beloved city of American Canyon is facing. It is a decision that will shape our community, our workforce, and our future. We find ourselves at a crossroads where we must choose between a PLA that excludes 60% of the workforce or the better option, pre-qualification language that is inclusive of all trades and will uplift labor standards and benefit our entire community. First and foremost, we believe in fairness and equal opportunities for all. A project labor agreement that excludes such a significant portion of the workforce goes against these core principles. The city is built on the foundation of inclusivity and diversity, and by adopting a PLA that, like the one before us, we risk alienating a large segment of our skilled workers. Inclusivity strengthens our community and fosters an environment of unity and collaboration. It is only by embracing the talents and skills of all workers that we can truly progress and flourish. Moreover, the introduction of pre-qualification language can have a ripple effect on our local economy. By attracting qualified contractors, we are committed to delivering quality work, we stimulate economic growth, and create job opportunities within our community. This means more residents benefiting from stable employment, increased economic activity, and improved living standards. It's a win-win situation that empowers our community members while promoting local prosperity. In conclusion, the choice is clear. We must reject a project labor agreement that excludes 60% of our workforce. Instead, we should adopt pre-qualification language that embraces inclusivity, elevates labor standards, and better serves our community. Let us come together and build a future where every worker has an opportunity to contribute to our shared success. Together, we can create a city that not only thrives economically, but also stands as a beacon of fairness, unity, and progress. Thank you.
Richie Cruz.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Richie Cruz. I'm also a field rep for the Carpenters Union, and I'm just here to speak on opposition to this PLA that's being proposed. I also believe that pre-qualification language should be adopted. I know what this membership did for me. I know exactly what it does for all young adults and all members of all communities. We've had a lot of recognition for Ms. Sherry's 20 years of service. We recognize all of our members, and we recognize all of our apprentices, journeymen who are in this membership and choose to do better with their lives. This membership not only covers 60% of the work, but it also turns young men like me from homeless to homeowners. I was homeless 20 years old. Thank God for this membership that I got in. I'm now a homeowner and I'm prospering in my life. And I just don't want you as a council in this city and also the young adults who were in my exact shoes to miss out on a membership that values everybody's principles and respects everybody. So thank you so much again. I'm opposed to this PLA.
Glenn Lovall.
Good evening, Council. Glenn Lovall, representing Napa Solano Central Labor Council, representing about 50 local unions and 50,000 union members across Napa and Solano counties, including, of course, here in the community of American Canyon, speaking strong support and standing in complete solidarity with the Building Trades Council and the Building Trades unions in support of this project labor agreement. As is pretty well demonstrated from your previous experience on the projects mentioned before, and the evidence and the testimonies presented from around the Bay Area and across the nation, project labor agreements stand as a strong and vital tool for local and equitable economic development, creating the quality union careers, quality careers across the board in construction, supporting, of course, apprenticeship, world-class apprenticeship programs, and the building trades efforts to bring members of underserved communities at unprecedented levels into these quality career paths, and of course, how it is conducive to local growth by allowing and facilitating goals for local workers to work on these projects and contribute back into the local community. With that said, thank you for your consideration on this, and we strongly urge to proceed and support.
Thank you. Council, we'll take a pause at this moment. Just to inform you, we have 6 more comments to go through.
I vote to continue.
Very good.
So do I.
Everyone in agreement? Councilmember Alvarado?
Yes, let's continue.
Councilmember Joseph? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll continue with the 6 comments we have then. Thank you, and appreciate the patience of the next committee up. It's the Open Space, Active Transportation, Sustainability Commission. We'll get to you after we complete these comments in our deliberation.
Also, I'm hoping that when we continue the meeting, all of you guys will be here at the next meeting as well, so that we can hear from both sides and so that you guys can hear our responses as well.
I'm not ready to make a call on continuation. I just would like to hear the comments, and then we can decide and deliberate if we want to continue or actually vote on this tonight.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I think there was some confusion over what we were actually acting. Were we to continue this to hear the next 6 speakers, or wanting to continue it to the next meeting?
No, continue this for the next 6 speakers.
Okay.
And we will engage in our deliberations on it.
Okay.
Okay? So it's time if
Okay
we
with
wanted to
that.
continue it, that would be part of our deliberation.
Oh, so we're voting to continue listening?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
public comment.
That works for me also.
Okay, good. All right, we're all on the same page.
But I
That's good.
still want you guys to come back and hear our responses, because I don't think we're going to have time to respond tonight.
Well, it depends on getting our work done for the evening. Yes, okay, very good.
Okay.
No, I think it would be helpful to hear the other comments as well.
I have Jesse Espinoza.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Jesse Espinosa. I'm a business rep for the operating engineers. And I'm here to ask for your support for this PLA. We too have a lot of apprentices. In fact, we just brought in 7 from the surrounding areas here on Monday. So, you know, we're constantly bringing in young blood to train and teach our skilled labor. So I'll make it short and sweet. I am here to ask for your support, and hopefully we can pass this tonight. Thank you.
Dan McCullough.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, I'm here tonight to ask you to oppose the PLA that's in front of you. And that's not coming lightly. That's something I never thought I would be saying at one of these podiums. But it has to be done because the carpenters have been excluded from this PLA and taking part in the PLA. It's true, we've left the building trades. But one thing that hasn't changed was the craft. The people that do the craft, they're still right here. They're still the same. We're just not part of the club at the moment. The reason we left the building trades is because it has nothing to do with American Canyon or anything that's being talked about here tonight. We left because we were pushing legislations trying to bring up all workers. All workers. That's our goal in our being, is bringing up all workers to a better standard of life. It's true, you've heard a lot of facts. You know, we do represent 60% of, you know, the work performed on construction projects. You know, you also heard something about pre-qualification. I have copies of, you know, a sample pre-qualification here that I would like to share with you all.
A copy for each of us?
You know, by adopting this PLA, it's going to drive even a deeper wedge, you know, within the carpenters and the building trades between us. It's not what a PLA is supposed to be doing. A PLA is supposed to be for labor harmony. And unfortunately, this one doesn't have that in it. And I think we were presenting a nice alternative here with pre-qualification language. It has something to do with everything that everybody stands here in this room. It train apprentices, provide health care, provide a living wage. You know, that's what we're about, and that's what we're always fighting for. And when a city is looking at excluding a certain group from taking part in projects that they've dedicated their lives to, they've gone through apprenticeships, they've been trained, they're carpenters. These are carpenters right here. You know, to not give them the opportunity to work on these projects would be shameful. So, anyways.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dave Harrison.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, staff. My name is Dave Harrison. I'm the Financial Secretary with the Operating Engineers Local 3. And I'm here tonight on behalf of, I would say, Switzerland. I've got friends with the brothers and sisters of the carpenters, as well as all the other 15 trades. And I hate to see a divide amongst our family. I think there's an opportunity here for a win-win. I want to talk about the heavy civil work city manager talked about. That's primarily the work of the operating engineer. I don't know where 60% of that work comes to the carpenter, but I don't want to disagree. I don't want to disagree. However, we do heavy civil work. But with that said, I think there's a win-win here, and I think we've heard about a project labor agreement that works, that's doable. It's been passed in other municipalities, as well as pre-qualification language that also works and has been passed in other municipalities. And without seeing that pre-qualification language and trusting my brothers and sisters to my right, I would support the passage of both and urge the City Council to one, support the PLA, vote yes for the PLA, and also consider adoption of the pre-qualification language. Thank you.
Leilani Conley.
Excuse me one moment. The last speaker, here's a copy. You're welcome. Next speaker, please.
Leilani Conley.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor,
Oh,
and
could you pull
everyone
the
else.
could you pull the microphone? Yeah, now we can hear you better.
Can you hear me now?
That's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor and everyone. I'm Leilani Conley. I am a union iron worker apprentice. I lived in American Canyon across the street for about 10 years. I'm in favor of the PLA so I can work close to home. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Valerie Maldonado.
Good evening, Council. I'm a union worker apprenticing, and I am in favor of the PLA to ensure work for my futures and all the union workers. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Victor McBella.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Council, allowing us, all of us, to come before you. It's not an easy lift. PLAs have been an effort going on for quite a while, but having the carpenters not a part of it is in some ways like building an automobile. You've got all the trades as different parts, but when it comes down to it, you don't have a motor. That's the carpenters. You cannot build an automobile without one of the main functions. You're right. What you're looking at is a lot of highway, et cetera, and we share that. But I heard a lot of concrete. Plumbers don't do concrete. Electricians don't do concrete. Sprinkler fitters don't do concrete. Carpenters, masons do, but that's only small. That's not curbed. So again, I would really like you to consider the fact that carpenters do the work and you're not involving them. It's like you're not including the motor that runs this whole thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have we concluded our list?
Okay, I'm over on Zoom now. Susan, go ahead.
My name is Susan, and I work for a non-union contractor, and I'm here to say no to a citywide PLA. PLAs may work on huge infrastructure projects with multiple trades, but to put them on projects that are just over your informal bidding process is terrible. $200,000 is not even replacing an HVAC unit. A PLA on all the projects that you have been doing successfully with your local contractors will be totally disruptive. Your local contractors will be unable to handle the compliance issues of a PLA. They are not equipped to double or triple their administrative work and the associated risks to them. And the city would also suffer trying to do compliance on every project. The purpose of this PLA is to stop you from supporting your local contractors. 7.6 of the PLA states that in the event that the unions are unable to fill the requisition of a contractor for employees, the contractor shall be free to obtain the workers from any source. This means a contractor cannot use his own workforce unless the union can't provide them first. A contractor can potentially show up on a job with none of his own workers. Why would he bid a job where he can't use his own workers? How can he successfully complete a project not knowing the skills or issues with these workers? Unions can keep their own workers. They do not have to go to the union bench for new workers unless they need them. This is extremely unfair and highly risky for any contractor. Union contractors would not bid a job if they could not use their own workforce, just like any other contractor. And a PLA is also harmful to union contractors that need to sub out work to non-union contractors, as many do, if those non-union contractors won't bid on a PLA. I believe a citywide PLA will be harmful to American Canyon. American Canyon has very few union contractors because it cannot support them with continuous public work. You need all your local contractors, union and non-union, working together to do your work. There is nothing a PLA does but harm non-union contractors, and this one, your carpentry contractors, who try to bid. Do not abandon your local contractors who have been doing your work successfully for many years. Do no harm and say no to a PLA. Thank you.
Susan, can I get your last name, please?
It's McDonald, MacDonald.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have any more online?
There is no one else online, and I did get one more speaker card for in-person.
Okay, we'll take this as the last card then.
Okay, Ken Miller.
Good evening, Mayor Garza. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and the rest of the council. You've heard a lot of my friends in the vests this evening saying they're being excluded from this PLA. That is not the case. They're not being excluded. They withdrew. So why would they be included in something they're not a part of? I'm a business agent for the ironworkers. I am not known for sugarcoating my words, but I'm trying to be respectful to my brothers and sister carpenters because I've worked with a lot of them over the years. When they say things like they're going to be not allowed on a project, they'll be discriminated against because they're not a part of this, that's not true. All the general contractors are signatory to the carpenters. They're going to be on this project regardless of whether their name is on a signature line or not. So please remember that and please support this PLA. Thank you.
With that, public comment is now closed. We'll return to council for further discussion, desired action. I appreciate everybody's comments from both sides on this issue. Particularly the gentleman here in front who spoke with a ray of hope, I think, for me, that we can work this out. And that would be a result I would hope that we can get at. I certainly do value the trades, whatever the activity is within the trades. But I do understand there are issues between these two groups, yes. And I would hope that there would be an opportunity to be able to work that out in the long term. But then with that, I will open it up for council comment. Councilmember Oral.
Yeah, as much as I want to resolve this tonight, you have come to us on an evening that should have been pretty perfunctory, but we have business to do. I'm going to make the motion, and I've got a lot to say. So if you come back, I've got a lot to say. I'm going to make the motion that we actually continue this because this council has business at hand that was scheduled about 10 minutes ago, and then there's another business item after that. We were presented this evening with additional information and a lot of comments. I'm not too sure it swayed how I'm feeling about this PLA that we've been working on for a long time. But I'm going to go ahead and put the motion on the table to continue this until our next meeting.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I'd like to make a couple of comments
Certainly,
as
go
well. And I agree. I mean, from my perspective, I thought the idea of having a PLA for city projects using us as a guinea pig, essentially, seemed like a great way of solving a problem that, as I mentioned earlier, historically was between unions and local developers. Kind of surprised that we have this split between unions, but at any rate. So I'm certainly sympathetic to the PLA. I'm also sympathetic to pre-qual language. So I think there's some merit in continuing this, not only because of our schedule tonight, but to give staff an opportunity and the players to sit down and talk about some of this language and whether there's a way to integrate some of it or not, whether there's a way to resolve the what seems to be an issue between the carpenters and the Business Trades Council, or at least give us about a month to work things out and see what's up. Otherwise, you know, I think, you know, we had asked staff to get us, negotiate us a PLA, and they've worked with the business or the Building Trades Council, and I'm inclined to go forward with that, but I do want to give an opportunity to work through any other issues since these came up today, and we do need to move on with other stuff. So I support continuing it. It's my second and my long-winded second. Thank you.
Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo what my two prior council members just mentioned about continuing. I almost feel like I'm in an episode of Divorce Court. And, you know, I've been a longtime supporter of the union. And I actually like Dave Harrison's opportunity to say, get together and then present something as a unit. I think it's important for the unions to show a single voice. And I would just ask that you guys do that, because we're policymakers. We're not negotiators for the union. And I like to see the union come to us with a process that is comfortable for everybody to live with and allow us to do our job and just make the decision to move forward with it. I think it's a great job. I just think it's like talking to my two daughters. You guys got to get along, figure out how you make it work, and then bring it to us. And then bring it to us to make that decision on, because it's a great project. Let's just work together in doing it. But I will vote for a continuance, and I would hope that you guys could probably meet before our next meeting and possibly just give us a presentation that will be satisfying everybody.
Councilmember Alba-Damas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's funny that you said that, Vice Mayor Washington, because I am a divorce. Sorry, can you hear me now? Sorry about that. I was saying it's funny that you said that, Vice Mayor Washington, because I am a divorce lawyer, and when Mayor Garcia started talking, it literally made me think of a judge in the family law courthouse. It's a little bit disheartening, right? We've been working on this PLA since 2019, and a citywide PLA in Napa County is historic. It's groundbreaking. We haven't done this yet, and American Canyon was leading that charge while working with our brothers and sisters in the trades. It's a little bit disheartening to see this divide, and I wish we would have all come here together and celebrated like Danny had mentioned, but that's not the case. I have one question, and please forgive my ignorance. I believe this question would be to our city attorney. Mr. Ross, if we were to move forward with the PLA, I honestly don't understand how it's excluding the carpenters, but if we were to move forward with the PLA as it is, would that preclude the carpenters from having a secondary PLA with the city?
I think the way that I'd respond is there's a matter that's specifically agendized tonight for council consideration, which you have evidence before you does not reflect issues that the opposition has raised. I think that's the only matter that's before you tonight. Could there be another PLA, is I think what you're asking.
Wait, before you answer that second part, I just want some clarification on the first part. So you're saying that the PLA as written does not exclude the carpenters, as we are being told right now?
I think the way I would interpret it would be as a standard agreement. If they're not specifically mentioned, they're excluded. I would go by the plain meaning of the document.
Right, and in reading it, I didn't read any language that says the carpenters are excluded from this PLA. So can someone explain this exclusion to me?
I think I'm going to go a little bit farther and involve standard rules of construction. When an agreement specifies that it operates on specific entities, it operates only on those specific entities, those specific parties.
Okay.
So I would say that the carpenters are excluded based on the context of the agreement that's agendized before you tonight.
Understood. So the second part of the question is, does approving this PLA preclude the carpenters from having a secondary PLA with the city?
My advice would be yes.
Okay.
in that case, I really, really, really hope that when we continue this meeting and come back, we have a resolution in place, because I, like I believe the rest of my colleagues, really want to keep the work local. This council has been a historic council in how supportive we have been of labor. We don't want to exclude the carpenters, but we also don't want to lose this PLA that we've been working on together since 2019. And frankly, I believe that the carpenters believe that this PLA is a good thing. You just want to be a part of it, right? Being members of a union means that you genuinely have to believe that. So I'm going to be optimistic. I vote to continue as well, and I'm going to be optimistic that we'll come back with a resolution together.
Thank you for the comments, Council. I would say that in addition to my remarks, I would hope that we come to some way that resolves this issue, that we're all working together on it. I know it may be a challenge, and I don't know all the details. It's not my area of expertise. That's why I rely on my city attorney, my city manager, and you as tradespeople to bring this matter forward and open discussion. I do appreciate the comments, very open and respectful to each other. Thank you for that. These things can get very heated at times. But I would look forward to maybe the opportunity being taken to have further discussion on behalf of both the carpenters and the Central Labor Council on this matter. And with that, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Mayor, before we vote, just want to get a little clarity. We're not going to be bringing this back to the July 18th meeting. We already have a pretty full schedule, and my own personal calendar is not going to provide an opportunity for this kind of dialogue. So if the motion could just be to a future meeting, that would be a little bit better.
I'll make a motion to continue this agenda item until a future meeting as determined by our schedule and city manager.
Any urgency in this from the city perspective, Mr.
Yes, we're going to want some prompt attention to this. It's just July 18th is not going to be enough time, that's all.
Okay.
And August 1st is National Night Out,
Right.
so.
Is there a second on it?
I'll second.
Motion second, roll call, please. Continue this item to a future-
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yep.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Are we? Jason, are
Yeah.
we going to finish this meeting?
Yeah, we are. Yes, we will.
We still have like management stuff.
No, we can defer that one. We just need to run through the agenda. If anybody has any really pressing need on it, I don't. We'll wait for the other two to get back. Not yet. No, not yet. When everybody gets back. And I just need to know if they have any pressing issues.
Is that copy for me, or do you need it back?
Thank you.
Need that back?
No?
Okay.
Yes, I do. Frankly, I don't have a copy. I stole Pierre's.
So,
Okay. Well, from these two, I guess not. Yeah. This meeting is adjourned. We'll move on to our next meeting. I see you as a peacemaker. Go make peace.
Sean,
Yeah.
so I think my opinion, and bringing you all into this qualification,
That's going to be helpful.
You talk too much is a win-win.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Sure.
You wouldn't know if I sat in the hallway.
No, I appreciate that. That's what I
Appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm gonna quick run to the restroom.
Yeah, okay.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, well, we need to. Necessary break. Excuse me. Let's call the meeting to order. Special Joint City Council Open Space Active Transportation and Sustainability Commission meeting for June 20, 2023. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barry Christian,
Here.
Commissioner Sean Hughes,
Here.
Commissioner Nance Matson is excused. Vice Chair Scott Artis,
Present.
Chair Tara McClinton Horner. Oh, she is also excused. Councilmember Miriam Abadamos.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you, Council. Have we received any public comments on items not on the agenda?
I have not.
Very good. We'll close that public comments. We will now go to business. Item 1, Open Space, Active Transportation, and Sustainability Commission Work Plan for Fiscal Year 2023-24.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and Commissioners. Thank everyone for being here tonight to start what is hopefully a repeatable pattern and becomes a familiar practice for the City Council to sit on an annual basis with the Open Space, Active Transportation, and Sustainability Commission, also known as OSATS. The OSATS was formed in late 2022, early 2023, and with an expanded kind of purview from its predecessor and the Open Space Advisory Committee, and active transportation and sustainability became elements in more broader focus along with open space. And the municipal code was amended to add this body as a full paid commission, and has met since that time here in chambers like the other commissions do, and the intent was to really elevate this body to a full commission. All of the citizen advisory bodies that the council appoints take their direction from the City Council, and so it's important that on at least an annual basis the bodies sit together and talk about what the council wants from all of their commissions on an annual basis. And so in preparation for tonight, the OSATs met both in May and June at their regular times and began developing a plan for next year. And so that's included in attachment 3, I believe it is, of your packet, starting on page 12. The OSATs worked with staff and came up with a list of work for the next fiscal year, starting on July 1st. The new routine that we hope to get into is to develop this 12-month look ahead, this 12-month work plan, and then, roughly a year from now, come back and start talking about the next 12 months. I think just other things of note. We're still kind of getting our feet under us as it relates to this group. This commission had a little bit of change, with the expanded purview of active transportation and sustainability to be added into open space. So with really only about 6 months or so under the new format, really now starting to look forward to this next year for a full year worth of items. And we would appreciate any kind of council feedback that we have. It just dawned on me, maybe something we'll do for next year as we look to do these kind of annually, is to maybe do a summary of the prior 12 months, the things that were accomplished, et cetera. Again, this body has only been comprised for 6 months, so although there were some notable accomplishments, we don't have a summary of those. But I think, as I was just thinking about it, that might be a good next item to have a year from now. Starting on page 12 of the packet is the draft work plan. And I'm going to kind of go through these items and then let the council and kind of commission talk or ask questions. And the idea at the end of this would be that the council would take action by way of a minute order to adopt this exhibit as the annual work plan for next year.
Pardon me, City Manager, is there a copy of that packet? We don't have our work plan here. I don't have a copy of it, so if it could
also
be on
note
the
to self, next year we could get them a copy of
Make
their,
sure the committee gets
their
it.
work plan.
Maybe if it could be on the screen, or we could share one somehow.
That's a really good question. We'll go make some copies.
Scott's got one on his computer here.
We'll print some here real quick, as we get into it.
Okay.
You'll have a hard copy.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's we are doing this for the first time, so making sure everyone has copies of stuff is the next note to self. I apologize, Barry. Thank you for mentioning that. So we are going to go make some copies, but we'll continue through the item. The first sort of 7 items, and 7 has a couple of subparts. So the first item is begin to update the Newell Management Plan. The Newell Management Plan is a document that guides the management of the Newell open space, and it's from circa in the early 2000s in its original incarnation, and well, it has a lot of really important information in it, geology, all sorts of erosion, all sorts of things that are in it. It's definitely due for some update and some refinement, so and some contemporary practices. So the first work plan item is to take that document, kind of peel it apart, and kind of dissect it and look at updating it. We don't expect that the whole plan itself would be ready to come back for council approval in the next 12 months, but we think we make some substantial progress on updating it. At the moment, we think staff has the expertise in-house to begin updating it. Should we get to the place where we think an outside consultant might be needed, then we would bring that back to council consideration, and we'd have to do an appropriation. But we think at the moment staff has the expertise to do that. So there we go. Look at that. Well, for those of you who have laser eyes or Superman eyes, there's the document. We're also working.
I think we can just get it to the parts with the numbers, and if you zoom in on it.
We are working on some hard copies for the body. So that's the new management plan. The next item can be viewed maybe as sort of a subtext for the Newell Management Plan, but really is a kind of specific item. And this would be to memorialize the existing access standards we have for open space and our trail maintenance practices. We have 2 real open spaces between Newell and the wetlands. We have some standards now as it relates to access. We have some maintenance practices, but they're not necessarily written down anywhere, and they're not, they haven't been what I would call refined in such a way that we could hand to a commission or hand to the council and say, this is what we do, for example. And just one example that comes to mind, in talking with the fire chief, when we have red flag days for fire danger, we close the Newell open space. So in that case, the access to the Newell open space is no access, right? We prohibit access, for example, on red flag days. So there's an example of something that staff has worked out with the fire district. We don't have memorialized anywhere. It's just something, a way of doing business. There we go. Progress.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. So this is one example. And so anyway, this number 2 item is to say, to literally memorialize what our access standards are, what trail maintenance practices we have today. We would put that into a kind of white paper and then bring it forward for kind of a review. It's not necessarily we bring it to council for approval, but it's sort of a memorialization of existing practices. This third item is meant to really think about active transportation and how active transportation can play a role in our private development projects. We have development standards for private projects, and generally that's the purview of the Planning Commission and then sometimes the City Council if the project comes to the council. But so much of active transportation can be thought of through the design of projects, and we have existing standards. But how many bicycle parking spaces in an apartment project? How many? When do we require developers to put in sidewalks, things like that? So we felt like having this body and the Planning Commission meet jointly and kind of talk about one body being the approver of development projects and the other body having the purview of active transportation and being able to share information about different active transportation standards or how active transportation gets implemented in the context of private development. So this would be a joint meeting between the 2 bodies to kind of share practices and learn from each other. This 4th item is a series of public workshops on the draft 2022 interim climate action plan. Previously, there was an ad hoc committee that came together and including Vice Mayor Washington and Councilmember Joseph, that prepared in 2022 the interim climate action plan. It was presented to the council, and among the things that the council really wanted, and among the reasons this body now really has sustainability in its purview, was to make sure we were getting some engagement from the broader public on sustainability issues. And so that plan was presented to the OSATs back in April, I believe that was. And so it was kind of, here's the existing work. We don't want to lose this existing work, but we're kind of handing off sustainability, handing off that purview to you. And so this work plan item says we want to have some public workshops. We want to engage the public. We know there are, a half a dozen really passionate folks about sustainability issues, and they always come to meetings and they always express themselves. But we're talking, at least what we've heard from the councils, we want a much broader perspective on sustainability issues and focusing on some of the easily implementable, quote unquote, low-hanging fruit, right? Some of those low-hanging fruit items that are in that interim climate plan. What are those that could be easily implemented? And then how can we structure these workshops so that we get a much broader spectrum of folks providing their input? So we're not sure yet on, how those workshops are going to be conducted. We're not sure that having them here at City Hall is going to be the most conducive to a large audience, unless we put PLAs on the agenda with it. So I said that in jest. So we're talking public workshops. They probably won't be at City Hall. We may have to go out into the community and figure out how that might be. So it may not be like an agendized workshop like what you're used to seeing. This is probably I'll call it a small W workshop. So a series of them, more than one, not five, somewhere in that range. But really working with OSATs to decide what's the best way to engage the community on this particular issue. Item number 5 is talking about the bicycle-friendly community designation. This would be a League of American Canyon Bicyclists award, or in this case designation, from them. And the work plan item is to kind of start to unpack that application. At first glance, there's a lot of words, as Brent likes to say. There's a lot of pages. So we're not sure the level of effort that it would take to get that designation, and we're also not sure its benefits. We've done a lot to build active transportation infrastructure. Our understanding at the moment is this is a designation, an award, a plaque is involved, that sort of thing. Are there other benefits we don't know about other than just the distinction? So starting to unpack that process, understand what the level of effort might be, and then to kind of bring that back to council to say, here's what's possible, here's the benefits of it, here's the time that's involved, consultants, we don't know yet, but to sort of be able to tell the council, if you wanted to pursue this kind of designation, here's what it would take. Item number 6 is going to be kind of the repeatable pattern that this body would review the upcoming capital improvement program. Back in May, this body reviewed and provided comment on the capital plan for 23-24, the one that'll be starting shortly. And so then, call it late spring next year, this body would review the upcoming capital plan for 24-25. So this will be a kind of a repeatable work plan item, and really focusing on open space, active transportation, and sustainability projects. So not every project in our CAP would fall in this. We have a roof repair project, for example. That's not the kind of thing that would come to this body, but the ones that have an open space element or active transportation or sustainability sorts of things, then yeah, it would go to this body, and it also goes to the Planning Commission before to City Council. And then lastly, kind of settling into the role of being a body to review and comment on design documents. So, as design is proceeding with certain types of projects, before they go to get an award for construction, which is what the council does, we believe the council would like to have this body review and comment on those documents to kind of have that feedback loop. There may be times when those comments are taken under consideration and not implemented, and there are other times that those comments are great comments, and well, they're probably always great comments, but there's sometimes that they may not be implemented, and sometimes they may be implemented, and either way, our commitment is to have that transparent process and explain what the comments were and whether they were implemented or not, and so it, again, provides that kind of feedback loop. So there's 3 projects we know that are on the horizon that in this next fiscal year we'd expect some review and comment possibilities. The first is the Napa River Ecology Center at American Canyon Wetlands use permit, also known as the Eco Center project. We expect to get a use permit application for that. And then also the open space, new open space trail project is already gone once to the OSATs, and we expect, again, the next iteration of design documents would go to them, as well as the outdoor education project. That project is the bathrooms and shade canopy and interpretive gardens out at the wetlands just west of the fitness equipment. So those would be the, and if there were other projects that, came along during the year where it was appropriate to have review, and as I'm thinking about it, the Green Island Road project, for example, the phase 2 of that project will have a class 2 lane on Commerce, for example. So there's some active transportation elements in there, and we're not out to bid yet, but that may be an example where we bring that as well. We're saying, here's the active transportation elements of that project. So this was not meant to be the only list. It was just the 3 that really popped into our head. And so, yeah. So this is kind of meant to be the list of work plans. There's always the possibility something might come up during the year. Some other issues may arise, and the first thought would be, that'd be good to kind of park it and bring it through the next cycle of work plans. If it, for some reason, felt really timely and really urgent, there's the ability to come back and talk to the council about amending this or adding something to it. But we think it's a full list here. None of these 7 items involve us going and hiring consultants to do stuff. We're envisioning doing it with staff resources. Obviously, the design projects, we may have consultants doing some of those, but in and of itself, the items in 1 through 7 are meant to be done at this point in-house. Which is why, although we don't say that in here, as far as the budget that's been approved for next year, we don't believe that this work plan requires additional appropriations or additional changes to that budget. And with that, love to kind of open it up to questions or comments from the council or from the commissioners.
Appreciate the list of activities that open space is going to be involved with, OSATs, rather, put it that way. And that there's opportunity should something arise. You never know what's going to change out there. You might need to have to take something up maybe of an urgent level, or an opportunity that may fade very quickly for us. But I like the plan as it's presented to us in draft form. Certainly finalizing it would be what we're about if we can. And anything new to add at this point. With that, Councilmember Oro.
Yeah, before we comment, I mean, I have some questions. I would love to hear, we've heard from the city manager, but I would love to hear from the commissioners if they have any general comments. I don't need anything specific, or if they wanted to add anything to what he said. I want to give them the opportunity to do that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you. I guess my comment is that during our commission meetings, I think part of the comments were to designate that not all of these could or potentially be tackled to completion during the year, but these could be potentially ongoing items. So the expectation is being set that we won't be able to get through all of these necessarily, but we can at least attack or start to do that, and then be able to address and see what are the priorities or what changes, as Mayor, you have commented on. And so I think that's kind of the basis that we're coming from, or at least I'm coming from on this, is how we're going to be able to achieve a lot of these goals during the upcoming year.
Thank you. Other comment? Okay, we'll move back to council then. Okay, go ahead.
I'll just go way off the reservation here and say that for the next year, there's a couple of things I'm thinking longer term, and one of them is with the trails that we have being built, the Vine Trail, and with the explosion, I shouldn't say explosion, the proliferation of battery-powered bikes. So we don't know what's going to be happening on the Vine Trail and what kind of things are going to be developing there. So we're looking at development standards for how to build it, but I think also what we may be looking at down the road is how to manage it. And then the second one would be longer term. The city of Boulder, Colorado in the 1960s taxed themselves and bought up a lot of the land around Boulder. And they made it open space and made it available for the public access. American Canyon's never really done anything like that. We're lucky that the Newell family generously donated the Newell Preserve. And we were lucky that the wetlands were being developed by Fish and Game and that the landfill closed down. We had that opportunity. But longer term, what I hear from people and what I'd like to consider is where we go in 5 or 10 years from now in terms of planning for open space. Are we going to try to buy any, preserve it, protect it? What are we going to look like 5 or 10 years from now? So that's not really on our work plan, but it's something that later on I would like to consider. So in case anybody was wondering, I think there's other things down the road to look at too.
Right. Thank you. Anybody else from the OSATs? We'll return to council for further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, but if I had the mic right beforehand.
I'll get back to you, Councilmember Oro.
So, I would also like an understanding either from our Parks Director, OSATs, or the city manager. I just want a general understanding if we have clarity of where this is. I know we put up a document. This is mic trouble night, huh? If we have clarity on OSATs, more importantly, are we comfortable with the mission and have we put that together, right? So there's open space, there's, active transportation and sustainability. The work plan itself kind of hits on all of that. Great. But I want to make sure that the commission itself feels comfortable with their mission or the direction of council and staff as well, right? And if it's not clear, then I think you might need a little bit more direction from council. I think that discussion needs to happen first, or at least those comments.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Councilmember Oro. Certainly would want to have the commissioners answer for themselves. From the staff's perspective, I would characterize it as a work in progress. I think a lot of change has happened, with this group, and the body was reconstituted, and elevated to a full commission, expanded its purview with active transportation and sustainability. And in some ways, those three categories are kind of a mashup. There's definitely a lot of areas where they're tied together. So it does make sense, but it's also, so far as we can tell, the only open space, active transportation, and sustainability commission in all of California. So it is definitely has a mashup at times. But I think it's a work in progress, and I think we're trending in the right direction. And I think the meetings are becoming productive and becoming thoughtful. Not every time is every meeting going to have every one of these topics. It definitely is going to kind of rotate. And so, I think, like I said, I think it's a work in progress, but I think it's trending in the right direction and in the direction that the council wanted from this body. But I would certainly, would want to have the commissioners as well.
Councilmember Joseph.
We want to hear from the commissioners to my question.
I'm comfortable with
Very
it.
good.
And maybe specifically the Newell Management Plan. I think there's a lot of opportunity up at Newell to improve the experience. A lot of that has to do with the trails and how we manage the trails. And I'm hoping we can do that within the management plan on trail standards and maybe some maintenance on, how often are we going to mow it? Are we going to build any new trails? How do we surface the trails? And then part of that also is with the existing project that we have up to the barn. So I think there's a lot of potential to improve it and make it a better experience for everyone. So I'm excited about that, and I'm comfortable with the rest of it too, personally.
Other comment from commissioners?
So I also agree with City Manager Hawley on the evolution of this, and I'm comfortable with it as well. And I think it brings together a lot of opportunity to excite passion and drive and work from the commission itself, now having an actual like physical copy of this in hand of what we're going to be doing and what we're going to be tackling. It gives that direction, and even if there is some ambiguity on some things or it hasn't been fully fleshed out, that's I think the point of having the meetings and being able to then talk about it and get an idea from city staff, and then or be able to come back to city council as well for some of that direction. But I think it opens up an opportunity to keep it lively as opposed to being so rigid that it can't be flexible if we have things that pop up or need to actually take place. And so this is, I think, a good opportunity for all of us to come together on the commission and be able to make some real things happen. And it excites a lot of people, and there's even some new things for myself that I haven't been involved with, such as active transportation that can open up some new doors and learning opportunities and be able to meld together some of the sustainability stuff that is my expertise as well as open spaces.
Well, things that lends itself to a very robust discussion, doesn't it? Your questions answered?
I have one comment. I'm also comfortable with this, and it's nice to see it on paper. I anticipated from day one that it's going to morph and change, but it's good to see this in front of us. So,
okay.
Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, I appreciate this, and I appreciate the manager's comment that it is a work in progress. And I think this is year one, and it will probably take 2 or 3 years to work through all the elements and get a nice routine. And in that regard, just ignoring the items, because the comments would apply to the Parks and Community Services work plan as well, I would like to see next year around that for each of these items, a brief thumbnail description of what it implies. Because I think a very good point has been, you know, if you read just update the Newell management plan, the assumption is, oh, well, it'll be completed. Well, not necessarily. So I think a little bit of a narrative that just describes what the project really entails so that you get a sense of the magnitude as well as the likelihood of how much you can get done in 12 months. If there's any kind of staff costs or consultant costs, and then if there's any project milestones, so that the reader looks at this. Obviously, it'll end up being, 3 or 4 pages, but you'll have kind of a work plan that gives you a sense of, this is what we need to accomplish, or this is what we're not going to get accomplished. For me, that would give me a little better sense of there was some more thought put into it. And I think there's a lot of discussion, but for me, a little more flesh on the actual document would be good. Beyond that, I think in terms of the substance, I think it's great. You got a little open space, you got a little active transportation, you have some sustainability. And I think even though you have those 3 areas, there is overlap in all of them, but they're also very unique and challenging. And part of the work plan is going to say, give us a little bit from, column A, column B, and column C. And I think you've done that with this plan. So I'm excited. I know I obviously have my vested interest in some of the sustainability stuff, but I know there's some people in the audience who are going to probably talk to that, so I'll defer to them. So far, so good. It looks good.
So more work to be done on that. And I look forward to hearing your discussion on it. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, just piggybacking on what Councilmember Joseph was just talking about. Is there a way that we're going to get some like matrix to kind of say, hey, look, this is the progress and how and I know we talk matrix all the time, Mark, but it just helps us keep ourselves in alignment. So I'm just curious of how often are we thinking about having report outs to us, and will the report outs come out from the chair? Will it come out from Ally? Where will we start getting the recommendations of what we should be considering for the city?
Yeah, it's a great question, Vice Mayor Washington. What I wrote in my notes here, although it would be more of an annual thing, is I was actually thinking about our OpenGov platform. We use that for our capital program, and I thought to myself, maybe we can just put some of that information into our OpenGov platform and have that available, for the annual meeting. But as a way of not just showing for you all, but for others who might be interested, even applicants, who might be interested in the body later on, to be able to go to OpenGov and to see, what the body was working on or what aspects they were covering. So I was thinking that as far as matrix and things. Some of these are going to could lend itself to that. I think the milestones that you'll see, particularly under item 7, will be the projects as they come through to award or approval from the council. So you'll see those. You'll certainly see the public workshops, because I know Jen and everyone will do their best to announce them. So we'll certainly see those, as well as the joint meeting, those announcements. So, and number 2 is going to be a white paper, basically, that the council will get a copy of. So I think you'll see those. I'm not seeing alignment necessarily with the matrix or anything, but I think these are a lot more kind of either ongoing or kind of start and finish, that you'll see the final product, some of which will come to you for approval. But my thought was, can we use our OpenGov platform and have the body basically have a page or a subset on there, and to show it that way, to showcase what they've been doing with the narratives, that Councilmember Joseph was talking about.
Okay. And I'm excited about how, it appears that the new commission has embraced their new responsibility. So I'm excited to see what happens in the future. So thanks.
I think there's opportunity also, as I look at 7C, outdoor education project, certainly collaboration with American County Community and Parks Foundation, or see if there's some area where common work can be done as well. Given they now have the mobile education center launched, so that's good. Any other council comment? Council ready for public comment?
Yes, sir.
Public comment is open on this matter. Anybody want to address the council on this?
Hi, we need a speaker. Could you
You
fill
are
the
now.
speaker card? After your comment, would you mind filling out the speaker card for me?
I don't mind.
Thank you.
Am I on?
You're on, yes.
All right, thank you. Good evening, council members and commissioners. It's nice to see you all again. I'm Kara Werner with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition, and we are excited about many of the things on this work plan, especially the joint meeting with the Planning Commission to discuss development standards. That's something we're working on a little bit in the city of Napa as well, so very cool that you're going to have that conversation. Our main piece of feedback is around the lack of street designs, the lack of review of street designs in this work plan. So in the foundational documents, when this group switched from a committee to a commission, commissioners said that they wanted to be able to review street designs for projects. The word design made it in here, but the streets didn't. And I was not present at the last meeting, but my program manager was, and it was said, I believe, that when they looked at the CIP list, that they would bring designs forward as those projects were coming forward, but I'm not sure why that's not included on here. I may have misheard, but I thought I heard City Manager Holly say that they would bring those projects when they go to bid. By the time they go to bid, they're already designed. The City of Napa, for example, brings projects when they're at the 60% phase of design for their committee commissioners to give input on. So you've elevated this body, right? So please elevate the advice they give you too. Please give them those opportunities to give you meaningful advice. This is very important because it's not about competence of staff and whether they can design something well or not. It's not about that at all. It is about values though. Do you remove some parking spots to put in a bike lane, for example? There's not a right or wrong for that. It's a decision the community has to make together. Do you, for example, increase safety by slowing down cars and reduce convenience for drivers? So again, it's not a right or wrong, but it's the lived experience. The lived experience of staff or of the commissioners will be really important. They know what it is to drop their kids off at school, for example, and to pick them back up and to sit in that traffic. So I would ask that there be a D added and that you don't approve this until it is that says that the 60% or something in that ballpark CIP designs that are related to active transportation do come before this group. Thank you very much for considering our thoughts, and I will now fill out a speaker card.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I have no speaker cards. There is no one on, there are none online. If anyone wants to speak, please fill out a card and bring it to me. Go ahead.
Also welcome.
I'll bring you a card.
Thank you.
I'm Jim Wilson, Napa. I teach climate responsibility in the schools. I am a member of Napa Climate now. I'm a retired lab manager and risk manager, and I'm a grandfather of a 2-year-old. I appreciate Mr. Hawley's description of the evolution of this event here today, and it, I think, in large part goes to this council, which impressed a lot of us when you came up with the urgency ordinance, putting a pause on building new gas stations, and that eventually ended up driving that same process in Calistoga. The city of Napa now has done an urgency ordinance. They have a pause on new and expanded gas station construction. And the student group today, Schools for Climate Action, was in Yountville. Again, second time in a year asking for the same sort of thing that we've done here. So this is about leadership and services as I see it. There's a lot to be done, and we've heard some of these ideas. What we don't always talk about is the time. And I think when Councilmember Joseph suggested, when the council gave him approval for, say, engaging the community around this new interim climate action plan, go first to the schools is where the passion is. And you ought to see what's going on these last 4 or 5 months in American Canyon High School with 2 major programs, 39 teams, and the vast majority of the student body involved in the climate challenge, this Napa County Climate Challenge. Now challenging New Tech, who have an up and running program, and the first part of this new school year going with Vintage High School and Napa High School. Why am I saying this? It's because it's about a new way of thinking and doing things. Now, when you say sustainability, everyone has an idea. In the 2030 context, it's a radical idea because you can no longer say do wrong by the climate and say, I will somehow find a way to offset it. You can think of a lot of examples of this is the way I think, and it's the way a lot of us think, I think, is we'll get around to it. But I suggest that if we do these community outreach events and we peg 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 or 6 climate actions, okay, the low-hanging fruit as you might call it, let's get them on the calendar, please, and say set firm dates right up front for stopping doing those things that drive the climate crazy. And when you look out this window, you can see a beautiful town. You can look the other way and see the same sort of thing with the open space. This is your responsibility as I see it. You manage this landscape. It is a treasury of, say, carbon. And right now, if you look at it and take an inventory, it is what it is. But let's maintain it as a net carbon sink and enhance it as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker? Anybody online?
There's no hands raised online.
Okay. So there's no other speaker in the audience. We will close public comment at this time. Return to council for further discussion, desired action.
What is the action?
We have a resolution.
Oh, we have a resolution. Or do we?
It's a,
I do believe
It's a minute
it's a
order.
minute order.
It's a minute order, okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Do we want to have any discussion about the design elements or a clarification under 7 that we want the OSATs to do some review of new projects that have roadways so that they can look at them from an active transportation perspective, or some clarification along those lines?
Yeah, happy to provide some clarification under 7. So 7's not the exhaustive list of everything that might come to the body. And in fact, another one that's popped into my head will be the Benton Way sidewalk and improvements there. That's under design as well. So, you know, we, for example, the Rio Del Mar ARPA project is a repaving within existing curbs, and aside from the ADA ramps that will all get upgraded to ADA standards, for which none of those curb ramps are even particularly challenging, that's that project. And so we weren't planning to take that project to this body because we're talking about a rubberized Cape Seal spec and identifying some curb ramps. So, you know, in our mind, the areas where, and we're not envisioning any projects that take away parking for bike lanes because we're not aware of any place where there's a conflict. I think some of the practices that Napa has to go through is because of those inherent conflicts in a much older town, much older parts of town where they have those kinds of conflicts. So, you know, certainly if we got to the place where, you know, there were substantial active transportation improvements, like, for example, on Melvin, those sidewalk improvements, we say, yeah, we're going to take that. There's a crossing there and some other things. But, for example, the citywide paving project with an existing curb and gutter, other than the ramp upgrades, there's nothing else going on. So this list isn't exhaustive. We'll be taking additional projects to them.
My concern is that there are opportunities, particularly class 4s, as well as class 1 and 2, for bike lane opportunities that sometimes, if I'm trying to second guess what Caro's comments were getting at, is sometimes there's opportunities that that an engineer won't see because they're basically following the guidelines. But you can look, Green Island Road is a good example, where there are opportunities for perhaps a class 4 on some of the other streets like Commerce or Hannah that wouldn't have been included or aren't being included, and yet there's probably enough physical space and it should be integrated. And it's those kinds of opportunities that I think that there needs to be some mechanism to get that dialogue going before it's too late. Right now, using Green Island, there's probably enough space, but as the manager pointed out, the geometrics, the layout of the curvature of the road probably doesn't lend itself to just sticking on barriers or whatever, speed bumps or something that you place down. So it's that situation, and I don't know what the criterion would be. Benton Way is an excellent example because there is so much traffic there, foot traffic, that you really need to spend some time figuring it out, and getting input from both OSATs and to some extent PCS would make sense. So how you operationally turn that into something is part of that refining the process. But at least for an understanding on the part of the council and the commission and staff, is that is a purview. There's got to be some mechanism that triggers it to say, okay, this ought to have some dialogue. You're right, if we're just doing a repaving job, it might not be a lot of fun to sit down and say, oh, so tell me about how thick that asphalt is and what other new techniques. But I do think for the design elements, there could be some opportunities.
Yeah, certainly. And this, like I said, the list isn't exhaustive. The only other thing I would say is this isn't just an active transportation commission. It's also the open space and sustainability body, and it's got a pretty full workload. So
the whole planning commission
taking
as well.
every project that we have in our CIP that might have a small bit of active transportation to it runs the risk of this being basically a CIP review committee instead. So we're trying to balance all of that. I think let's play it out for this next year, and if we'll make a concerted effort to bring and again, the design documents, the term design documents in here is not the document that's going out to bid. That phrase to us means it's a milestone document. 60% is a pretty decent suggestion for some projects. Other projects we require an earlier review, like we've done even with the Newell's project. So I think, again, we're not going to list all the projects because there's going to be some fluidity to it, but Benton Way and all those, we're going to have some.
I think it's less about the project or the specifics of looking at something and more the direction from the council, that because we created this Open Space Active Transportation and Sustainability Commission, that their purview is to look at things like that, to have more active transportation, have more sustainability things. And that means bikes, that means walkable lanes, that means design reviews, that means engagement in terms of what is coming before them and recommendations to the council of how we can make this city better in all of these things. And so I would encourage that, and I think, Councilmember Joseph is saying is that has to be part of their purview. I think their work plan reflects that, what's not said in here, and maybe we need to be more explicit, is that as a speaker from the Napa County Bicycle Coalition has stated many times, you have to build that into the engineering process almost. And I would also encourage, and there she is, I'm looking at her in Public Works, that she also consider that too, and take that engineer hat and put that human hat on, because we're walking these streets, we're riding our bikes, you know, and that kind of stuff. So just know that that's the direction. And I, as part of this committee, I don't be afraid to bring that up and challenge staff to keep that in mind.
I would agree. I concur. And it is a refining process. So I think that's the value of these kind of joint sessions, is you get this kind of feedback that can't be put on paper, but, you know, the commissioners will get a better sense.
Frankly, I think it's important to have that portion of it documented, because it's a plan for us. I see it as a level of priorities. Certainly with all new construction, it's easier to have that type of design discussion about that. The older parts of the city, it's a matter of how much funding do we have available and what are the priorities. Melvin Road's a prime example to me. You know, you have a big apartment housing going on, a multifamily housing going on there. It needs to have there's no sidewalk. There's 4 elements that I think they need to go down to Donaldson Way, so there's a safe route to school for kids. But, you know, I'm very pleased with the city's decision to pave it all the way out to Casare. You know, that's taking that into consideration. So I think as those opportunities present themselves, or there's something, I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, wanted to spend the energy on it, but the citywide look at streets and active transportation availability on it. But this gets to addressing that issue. I don't want to jump in front of the team on it.
Yeah.
But we do need to have that conversation in time, and I think this will allow us to get there.
Well, that's how policy gets made, and that's the important work of our commissions, right?
Yeah.
You drive this, and it becomes so important to where the policy becomes we need to redo our older streets to be walkable and bikeable, right? And there's some places that don't have sidewalks in town. Legacy of the county, right? And maybe that's a policy we adopt in the near future, but we need the advice from this group to do that, and that's what the charter is, among the other things, and all this work plan stuff that I expect all done next year. So,
all right, yeah. So we'll get started. Well, thank you very much for the presentation this evening. I think we have closed public comment on that. Any
Yeah.
other discussion?
do I make a motion to adopt the minute order? Yeah, so I'll make a motion to adopt the minute order for the Open Space Active Transportation Sustainable Commission work plan for fiscal year 23-24.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, commissioners.
Good discussion, good activity this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Short break while we transition.
We're adjourning.
You need
We're
a 5-minute break?
actually.
All right,
Gotta
good.
do the shit.
Adjourning.
Oh, stand up.
It's
Feel those joints crack? Dude, I've been like this since like 6. Ooh, that's too long, dude.
I don't know, but it's not that.
Oh, also, I have this. Thank you so much. The chair in the middle, or does it matter? Okay.
So much prettier than that other group. Look at you guys. What's up, Clarence? Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said? I said you guys are so much prettier than that other group. I'm so glad that. Yeah.
Very good, council. If we all return to the dais, please. We'll get started.
I think Barry is a hunk.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, council ready? Hearing no objection, we'll get started. Call the meeting to order. Special Joint City Council and Park and Community Services Commission for June 20, 2023. Roll call, please.
Commissioner David Garcia Arreola.
Present.
Commissioner Clarence Mamoral.
Here.
Commissioner Charles Plummer.
Present.
Vice Chair Kathy Margalotti.
Present.
Chair Gina Griggs. Councilmember Miriam Abadamos.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you, council. Have we received any public comment on items not on the agenda for this meeting?
We have not.
Very good. We'll close public comment at this time. We turn to our business item. Parks and Community Services Commission Work Plan for fiscal year 2023-24. Commissioners, welcome. Good to have you here this evening. Look forward to a very productive discussion. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are here this evening to discuss the Parks and Community Services Commission's work plan for fiscal year 2023-24. we've spent some time putting together a draft work plan for your review this evening. We met as a body on May 11th, and we were able to come up with several items that we think that that we'd be able to accomplish over the next year as part of their work plan. Attached in your packet this evening is the draft work plan, and within those items, we have 5 items that we've identified. Item number 1 is preparing a request for proposal, an RFP to update the Parks and Community Services Master Plan. The master plan, as you know, was created by city staff as well as this PCS commission back in 2011, and it has not been updated since then. We reviewed it and we identified this would be a great opportunity to update that master plan and bring that master plan to a more modern and current plan for this department, and really identify our next few years, our goals and initiatives. We felt the work plan was really well written for the time that it was. There was a lot of things that were in that master plan that we have accomplished as a city, and we recognize that, and we feel that this would be a great opportunity to be able to update that and really set our plan forth for the Parks and Recreation Department. Item number 2 is update the 2023 Parks and Recreation Department user fee schedule. This past year, the commission worked really hard in updating our fees. We hadn't updated our fees for 19 years, and we made a great accomplishment by updating those fees and identifying 16 service categories, as well as our cost recovery percentages, the pyramid, and we really wanted to update the fees and have an incremental approach. A lot of the fees, although we did update them, they aren't at the cost recovery percentages that we identified as a body. And so over this next year, we would like to do another incremental fee increase, not just the CPI, but also just, again, trying to get that our service fees to be more aligned to what it is actually costing us to run that service. So we would like to spend some time updating those fees again and bring that forward as part of the budget for fiscal year 24-25. Thank you. And then item number 3 is the fiscal year 24-25 repair replacement fund for a plan for small projects. This was a request for us to plan ahead and use that money that's been set aside by this body, by the council, to look at smaller projects, more of a replacement, and think ahead of what we would like to spend that money on, and what where we can make a difference on a couple items within the community. So we would like to get together and discuss what those projects would look like and plan for the next fiscal year. Number 4 is the facility naming of the former Napa Junction Elementary School. As you know, we did the property exchange with the school district, and we are now the proud owners of the former Napa Elementary School, and we're currently using it for programs and services. And we would like to take the opportunity to actually properly name that facility instead of calling it the old Napa Junction School Site or the former Napa Junction School Site. We'd really like to make that facility our own and rename it and have the community's involvement. And then number 5 is the fiscal year 23-24 capital improvement program. So again, pertaining to the Parks and Recreation projects, bringing those projects forward to this body. We have 15 projects. 24-25. We have 15 projects on the books that pertain to the Parks and Recreation Department, where we would like to have this body review and comment before we bring those projects forward to council. So with that plan, just like the last commission, if any items do come up throughout the work plan where we need it's an emergency, or we have an item that we would like to address, we would come together as a body and figure out, do we table it, or do we come to the commission and come to the council and ask to reorganize our work plan to include that new item and take something off. So that would be a part of that conversation as well, if we needed to add anything in addition to this work plan once it's adopted and approved. That is it. Thank you so much.
Very good. Council comment? Councilman Oral.
I do. So thank you for doing this. And I know you guys spent a long time actually talking about fees before and all of that. And it looks like we're going to do it again. Is that right? Is there a different part of that? It's the program fees.
Correct.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
Yeah. Facilities fees was first.
So they were including facility rental fees, program fees, any service fee that we charge to the community for the programs and services and rentals that we provide.
Okay. I love the plan for the small projects. I think this council has talked a lot about doing a lot of big things over the past few years, and our shift to doing smaller things is great. I'm looking forward to see what you guys can come up with. Plenty of opportunities, as my colleague, Councilman Rob Adamus, will say. There's plenty of opportunities on the west side parks. And we could do that, and I think some of the things on the east side are probably could be aging as well. For the naming of the former Napa Junction Elementary, I'm looking forward to seeing that happen. It could be the David Oro Center for fun, or the Fran Lemos Center for fun. Just throwing out some ideas early on. Yeah, pretty good on this, and looking forward to the work that you guys have.
Thank you. Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, I appreciate this report, and I'm going to make the same comment that I did for the last one, but hopefully with less words, to add a little more meat around the potatoes on a brief narrative of what each of the projects imply, milestones, that kind of thing. So same issue. To the one specifically, I agree. Project number 3, the repair and replacement fund for park improvements, is probably the most exciting opportunity. And I would encourage that you look at, a lot of it. In other words, look at all the parks and what can be done, and recognize you can't do it all in 1 year. So for me, I could see you guys mapping something out over the next 5 years, get some kind of a ballpark cost, figure out what that means every year, and then our finance director doesn't have to go to the trouble of figuring out how much he needs to come up with every year to finance our repair and replacement fund. And then, I'm sure he'll appreciate that. But what I'm getting at is that there's a lot of work to be done, and this is part of that overall effort to basically fund our deferred maintenance and make sure all of our parks look great, that it improves the quality of life. And so I would encourage you to look beyond just the first year. I mean, that the first year is what you've got funding for, but start looking down the road. What other projects do you need to look at? How are you going to get the money? How are you going to schedule it and so forth? Because I agree with Councilmember Oro. This is the exciting stuff. This is the stuff that, you get everybody excited because brand new parks and recreation is fun and exciting. God only knows what the former Napa Junction Elementary School should be. I'm glad that falls into your lap, because I'd hate to try to come up with a good name. So knock yourselves out. Yeah, the David Oro Fun Center, I'm going to have to say no, but, yeah, stick with the tacos and yeah.
That it, Councilmember Joseph?
And one last thing, I have to do my relentless lobbying. On the subject of the Napa Junction Elementary School, any progress we might have on opening up some of those initial classrooms for community use be great. Okay, now I've fulfilled my obligations to the Arts Foundation and the Kiwanis Club, and it's recorded.
Well, good job. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Councilmember Abadamos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you guys for all of the work that you've put into this. I just, number one, want to reemphasize something that Councilmember Oro already said, and he did throw my name in there, so you guys probably expected this, but there is a ton of opportunity in the West Side parks. Just putting it out there for number 3. And then something I would love to add or see added to this work plan, and I'm going to get a glare from Jason, so I'm not going to look. I would love to also include the renaming of Community Parks 1 and 2.
Second.
Thank you. We've talked about it, but we keep on taking it back off because I know it's not that easy. But at some point, we're going to have to tackle that, even though it's not that easy. And what better group to do it than you guys?
Yes, I'm sure. I'll pause on that one. Yeah. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate what you guys do. I think all the work plan here, everything here is attainable, very attainable. And I was going to mention about the renaming. You guys might think you're the renaming committee, you know, but I'm excited about that. We have a lot of new people that are coming into American Canyon, and they're asking, you know, well, we don't understand what's this CommuniCom, you know, 1 or CommuniCom 2. So trying to explain that, I'd rather be able to give it a name, you know. So I'm with you on that as well. And sorry.
I just want to say that was 3. That was 3.
Yeah, so just naming it.
We're counting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, you know, it just gives it a little bit more character. And we have a lot of great people from our cities past that.
Well, yeah, speaking about characters, the direction the trees have grown kind of indicate what's happens out there a lot. Pretty windy, I guess. I think we have a couple of very old parks that need some TLC, and I look forward to further discussion on that. I know we have a work plan currently for improvement of a couple of parks, maybe like Northampton, Bellagio. Likewise, we could use the same amenities at Community Park 2 to be renamed something at your discretion. A couple of things that come up to me, I think just because we're speaking about some things that need to be done. The Juneteenth celebration, Main Street Park it's called. But look at the access. Where's the ADA ramp to get down to the bottom? Several people, well, actually, 3 counting myself, slipped on the pathways going down through the brush, so we need stair access, something like that.
I thought you were breakdancing, but then it was slip.
Yeah. Well, that was my fancy move because I turned around at the end. But that's an access issue that presents a problem. I know bathrooms are more costly and take more time to develop, but certainly we can look at putting some safety ramps in there and access. Either that or you just, what do we do, relabel it just stormwater retention basin, because it's always been called Main Street Park, and that's the way of, and we've had many great celebrations there. The Juneteenth celebration was, wow, outstanding work. And I know Brenda Knight and her Music Connections have had concerts out there for many years in the past. And for me, it's just something, well, hello, I wasn't out there in a long time, and then went, oh, wow, this is going to be hard to get in and out of. Yeah, it is. So the revisiting it kind of showed that to me. Something to consider in terms of work plans out there. I know there's a lot of work to be done, and I really appreciate the work that, the challenges you face with it, not only budgetarily, but priorities. And you guys do a great job, so thank you. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes, I just wanted to weigh in on the renaming. I appreciate Community Park 1 and 2. I mean, you might have one community park, but when you have 2, and you can never be sure which is 1 and which is 2. I mean, we really have to look at that one too. The good news is if you have 3 renaming opportunities, if you get a lot of great ideas, you can say, okay, we're going to name, whatever for the Old Napa Junction, and this will be Com Park 1 and this will be Com Park 2. So by doing all of it at once, it'll probably be easier because you'll get great ideas. I mean, you already got one unsolicited idea that I won't necessarily say is great, but it was an unsolicited idea. So, and I do want to echo the mayor's comments on Main Street Park. Yeah, we've got to work on some stuff. I would love to see that become kind of a public outdoor performance venue, because right now it's a huge detention basin with grass, and at least you could do something with it. So that might be an exciting project, just to figure out what can you do with 5 acres of turf.
Certainly an opportunity to re-examine that, yes, build something better. Mr. Hawley, comment?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Certainly, it's the council's purview to add or take away things from the work plan. So to the extent that was something the council was interested in doing and having additional renamings, it's why we have this feedback loop, why we have this process.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
totally appropriate. The only thing I would suggest is maybe checking in with the commission to make sure they're comfortable with the additional items. But yeah, that's the reason for this process. And we do have a facility naming policy, so this isn't just whatever 5 people recommend to you. The commission goes through a very public process, a very significant public engagement process. Ultimately, it is the council who makes the final decision. You don't get to pawn it off on them totally. So, but they come to you with recommendations, and it's after a lengthy public process. So,
Yeah, no, my comments are added for the commission's consideration. And timing of it is certainly at your discretion. So thank you.
Can we get an inclusive list of what you'd like to add so we can take a vote, please?
I think that could be provided.
I think it's Old Napa Junction, Com Park 1 and 2.
Renaming of facilities.
Yeah.
Napa
Just
Junction.
those three.
Community Park 1, Community Park 2.
Just the renaming, or did you want to include access to Main Street Park?
Oh.
Well, I'm speaking to the comments that were raised here on the renaming issue. On the access, yeah, that's something to look at as well, particularly from a public safety perspective. Oh, and access ADA.
Although arguably it could be part of your number 3 as part of the repair and replacement fund.
Yeah.
It could be.
Admittedly, it's not a west side park, but it's
Hey,
a park.
At Juneteenth, trying to get Farah and that stroller down to the grass, I agree with the mayor. There definitely needs to be more access there. So I will not argue if you want to add that as part of number 3.
Chair Griggs, as someone who speaks council, what I would respectfully suggest is they're suggesting ideas as you deliberate and work on item number 3 next year. That's their way of advocating for it. That seems like a good idea. There may be others. They're not explicitly saying design and improvement to Main Street Park as a new agenda item. It's on the list of stuff that'll come up under agenda item 3. There's already support for at least one particular park, and there are others undoubtedly that will come up in your consideration.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Hall.
That's how you interpret that.
Good interpretation.
Thank you.
All right. Anything further for council? Any public comment on this matter? Anybody online?
I have no one online, or we have not received any written comment on this item.
Well, in reviewing my documents here, guidelines on the community park and the ordinance, I do note that one of the signatures on it is Mark Joseph, city clerk. That was a while back. That was June 1999.
All right.
Thank you for that. There's the legacy there, Mark. Thank you.
Between that and Sherry, for me, Sherry Burgess, but Sherry Cassidy, this is old times, or whatever it is when you get a flashback.
It is.
Could the commissioners have anything that you guys would like to add or clarify for the council, or what do you guys think about our feedback?
I just wanted to add, like, looking here at the repair and replacement fund, I think this is an excellent idea, but we should consider, like, the safety aspect of these playgrounds, the parks, the fields. Like, what are going to be our priorities? Because my worst fear is that someone gets injured in a field that's not maintained. It hasn't been serviced. Like, do we have an outline of what that maintenance is going to look like? Some of this equipment, could we refurbish it? That we could, like, narrow, the budget. But that's something that I would like to see is how are we prioritizing this, and more than anything, just making sure that our parks are safe. Because the worst thing is someone getting injured, and what do we tell the kids of this family? We couldn't do it because we were lacking maintenance, or we didn't have a plan. And I would like to, come up to a plan before someone gets injured and not just react once it's already has happened. But that's what I'd like to share.
Mr. Garcia Arriola, that's a good point you raised there. When do we do an assessment of parks in terms of safety considerations or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great point. So each of our playgrounds, we have certified staff. We have staff who are certified in playground inspections, and going from memory, I believe it's an annual inspection they do. It could be every 2 years. It's one of those 2 intervals. That's what is at the advice of our liability insurance program. So it's consistent with those programs. Their certifications stay up to date. And that certainly factors into, what might be as a part of the repair and replacement fund would be certainly safety comes to the forefront for all of that.
Okay.
There are no safety standards for a turf or a park, that sort of thing. So that doesn't fall into the same sort of camp, but playground equipment in particular has different standards. We have staff with the certifications to do the inspections, and it's covered under our liability insurance.
Thank you. Councilmember Oro.
Yeah, that's one thing, and I'm going to say the same thing that I sent to the Open Space Act Transportation Sustainability Committee. We need you guys to look out for ideas that we can possibly implement and you recommend. And so when we were talking about engineering for active transportation, the thing that you brought up, Mr. Garcia, is the same thing. Is it safety? And as you look at the request for proposal for the master plan, that's where you build that in. So beyond safety may be one of them. One of the things that we've learned here from a resident, some inclusionary play. So we're putting in a playground over, what's the park? Northampton, that is accessible to all people with all abilities. Do we consider that, or does your commission make that recommendation to us to say that these are values that the City of American Canyon should be implementing and we should be adopting? Think through that. I would love to hear those ideas. I would love to see that come through in your work. How to make these best places. I've said before, how do we attain world-class parks? What does that mean? It means, well, hopefully having a lot of benefactors that can contribute to it, or raising fees, or doing things differently. Those are the kinds of things that I think we want to kind of look at and think differently to it. And if you could bring that forward, that would be great. That's what I would say to your comment on safety. Just one aspect of many things that you all should be looking out for.
All right. Is there a comment from council?
I have a
yes.
question, and this I'm not suggesting that we add this to your work plan right now, but do we have an update on Clark Ranch? Because when I was first elected, we spent a lot of time on the plan for Clark Ranch, and then it kind of went silent. And when I've asked for an update before, it's probably been a couple years since I've asked for an update, but we were lacking in funding. So I'm wondering if at some point we can add to the work plan to somehow look for funding for actually building out Clark Ranch, or if there's any updates that you can provide us with at the moment.
Sure, Councilmember Adamas, happy to take that. It's not listed here on their proposed plan. The current concepts as it relates to Clark Ranch really is to finish the outdoor education project that currently in design and will get built out in, probably spring or early summer next year is probably when we'll be out to bid. So having that project come forward, that's among the biggest need out there at the moment, having restrooms, an outdoor, three-season outdoor education space in some of the native gardens. So getting that done, and then we really need to kind of take a breath and kind of understand where things sit. We also really want to see the Eco Center moving forward, and we will be vacating that property, by the end of the calendar year. We know the Parks Foundation's moving forward with that, and to see that really start to come to the fore, and we can kind of take that and kind of collect our breath and go, okay, this is what has happened so far, consistent with the plan. Here's the things that are not going to happen with the plan, and then begin to think about reimagining the Clark Ranch Master Plan. One of the other aspects of this, though, has to do with, and I'll go back to the repair and renovation funds. One of the things that we wanted to put some emphasis on was taking care of what we have and not just focusing on new and shiny projects, which the Clark Ranch Master Plan is going to be implemented. It'll be different than the version that we currently have, and it's a lot more likely to be done in segments or pieces. The next thing that needs to happen at Clark Ranch, for example, is the trees, either full eradication or at least removing some of the dying and dead eucalyptus trees that are out there. We know that the users out there right now would love to have water, sewer, and electric service. So getting the property plumbed with utilities would be a next phase. So really we'll be talking about breaking it into really kind of bite-sized pieces. There's not going to be a point in time where we go out to bid with the Clark Ranch Master Plan and all of that stuff is suddenly in some big contract. It's going to be much more incremental And it also comes within the context of that, those increments come within the context of wanting to take care of what we have and prioritize some of those existing assets with the revenue streams that we have, and really making decisions about Clark Ranch based on what we could take care of. Because it's one thing to build something, it's it's something entirely different to build it and then take care of it. And not just here, everywhere is very, very easy to build stuff. It's much, much harder to build stuff you can take care of and plan for that taking care of. So that's definitely in our forethought. And we've talked with our finance director about that too, and talking about how do we bring projects forward that have built in this take care of it component.
Jason, I just want to commend you because I know what you just said is not an easy thing to say. Like, we have this master plan for this amazing park, but we're just not ready to build it yet because we need to take care of what we really have. But I really appreciate you saying that, so I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Very good. We had public comment. We did. You want to make a? We've not had. Oh, we're not ready for it. Yeah, I guess so. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
The comment after you.
Yes, I wanted to echo what Councilmember Abadamas just said on Main Street, Clark Ranch. It must be getting late.
Yes.
And in that, I think there's also an aspect in which we may be more of a reactive mode than a building mode. Spirit Horse, for example, just had a big fundraiser, and hopefully they made a lot of money. And so as they start generating a revenue stream, they're going to be in a position to say, hey, I can afford to build a corral or begin to develop a facility there. And that's going to force us to say, do we let you do that, or do we say, oh no, our master plan had you in a much smaller spot? So I have a sense that in a year or two, our PCS is going to be looking at how do you react to the Clark Ranch, not necessarily from a master planning, but from a reacting to, Spirit Horse developing, 4-H developing, and those two entities kind of taking a good chunk of that, but also being the stewards of those chunks. And then maybe we work with the little triangular piece on the south side of the service road, and maybe that's where we focus some of our money on. So I think that one's going to evolve, in which we may be reacting to it. The other point is that what I think is neat about number 3, the repair and replacement, is we need, now that we have this structure in place, we've got to figure out how much money we need to squeeze out of our general fund to fund all these things. And if you start looking at all the different projects and using safety or quality of life or whatever the criteria is to begin developing a multi-year program with a ballpark cost estimate, you'll be doing you'll be helping the finance director, because that will begin generating, this is how much you need every year. How he can find it is one issue, but at least figuring out what the number is, that's an important first step. And I think what you're going to be doing is helping in that process. So go for it.
Council ready for public comment? Yes, sir. Public comment is open now.
Okay, let me see how to use this thing. Is it on? Can you hear me?
There's a switch on the top, Fran. There's a mute switch on the very top.
Oh, I'm talking to.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Sorry, I just have a couple of thoughts, and I'm going to pass them on to you. I think the Newell project, I would like to see horses out there, or maybe a barn where they can ride up in those hills instead of Clark Ranch. Clark Ranch to me is very small, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Not very big, I don't think. Anyway, I'd like to see horseback riding up there at Newell, maybe the old barn or whatever. And the other thing I have, has anybody been to Las Vegas and seen their, it's in the old part of Las Vegas, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. They have a stage, they have a round circle thing bigger than this room, and the kids go in there, and they have all kiddie stuff in there, all kinds of swings and things they climb through. And then around the edge on the outside, they have tables and chairs, and the parents can sit there and watch their kids. It's a wonderful park. I, as an adult, enjoyed just watching them, you know, because the kids go in there and they just have a ball. That's something new and different. You know, it's nice to have something different. And the other thing that I would like to see is the grove, for the Memorial Grove. Now, I know that's been on the back burner for years, and because they ran out of trees, but I think you could still have trees in any park where people could buy them. And my daughter just lost her friend, and they bought a tree down in Santa Cruz, and they buried her ashes underneath that tree. And something like that, I think, would be kind of more into the recreation, I guess. But anyway, there's a few ideas. I get this magazine from the Midwest and from the South, and they have so many great, wonderful things in there that you could use in our little city. You know, I don't know if anybody's read those magazines, and when you go to Charleston, and they have all these wonderful things where they really, they're different. And our little city is different.
Yes, it is.
And I think it would be nice to have some of this different kinds of recreation. And you're doing a great job, believe me. But anyway, that's kind of some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Another speaker?
Barry Christian, is this on? Yeah.
Yes.
Barry Christian, American Canyon. So if you're going to cut down the eucalyptus trees or take out the old ones, I think there's a great opportunity here for volunteers to go out and plant trees. I know people have talked to me that they would like to plant more trees at Newell. The RCD came down here with their PG&E funded grant to re-oak the Napa Valley, and they did a number of tree planting projects up at Newell. A lot of those trees are doing well. And so you could start planting the oaks or willows, red willow, or whatever we think will grow there, and try a lot of different ones, and then gradually take out those other trees. Because if you just chop them all down, there are animals that depend on them now, even though the trees aren't native. So you'd be disrupting the environment. But you can start planting. I think you can get volunteers to do it. I don't think it'll cost anything. Acorns are free. You just gather them, sprout them, and plant them. And volunteers will go out there and water them. So we can do that. We just need a little bit of organization, a little bit of leadership. I don't think it'd be very expensive. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other speakers?
Hello, Janelle Selick with the Parks Foundation. A couple things on wetlands. I think interesting the sort of pause and reflect on Clark Wrench idea. I think it's a really good time for that, and I think it's really time to start looking at it more even broadly and from a bigger picture with the Developing Ecology Center to the south. The existing Newell Trailhead, the fitness center, Spirit Horse, Momentum, all of these things that are happening, there's a real opportunity for that to become a regional draw in even bigger regional park area. There's some grants out there for that kind of development. And then in addition, the former landfill and opportunities there when that lease arrangement comes due. So a lot of opportunity at wetlands. Again, such a treasure. I was out there with folks from the Napa Solano Audubon recently, and they told me that in 1 hour they have seen upwards of 100 species of birds out there. And the typical, for people that are bird savvy, is 50 to 60. So our wetlands is so special. We have to remember that, and as the community develops it, it's going to become even more of a draw for that area. The other thing, I was really happy to see the repair and replacement fund, and really thrilled with the ADA accessibility projects that are coming forward. And I know a couple years ago when we were having some of those early conversations, the idea that there's some sort of a policy or a movement toward looking at repair and replacement projects with an eye of accessibility. And so making sure that when those projects come due with this new fund, that we're really looking at them and working with our community members that are especially advocating for true ADA access and accessibility for all. So really like to see that conversation continuing toward making sure that any new projects or any updates that we make to existing parks are looked at with an eye of accessibility. So that's it.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
No,
at this time.
I have one online, Mayor Garcia.
You have one online?
I do. I've got Justin Hamilton Holt. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, I'm day up late like this, so it's very see that it's all get ready for this next year. And I just want to shout out with Janelle because Janelle is working very hard to get the Eagle Center going. I do want to see more new park playgrounds. We help build a playground for Kiwanis Napa. So I want to see new playground. So I was just gonna say shout out with Janelle.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any more online?
There are no other comments.
Okay. Public comment is closed now. Move to council for further discussion, desired action. We do have an ordinance.
As with the other commission, we at one point solicited input from you guys. You've heard us for a half hour or so. What's your feedback? Any comments?
So my comments regarding item 4, basically the expansion of duties of the renaming committee are well taken. Completely agree. It's just speaking for myself. But yes, it makes sense. It's also my understanding that the process includes having a renaming committee with representatives from this body and council and the community at large, so that I have no doubt that the committee will come up with a good name, and to expand its duties for renaming Community Park is well taken. Regarding ADA accessibility to Main Street Park, actually at Juneteenth, both as an attendee and as a vendor, and in speaking with Director Hawley, we've, in a sense, started that conversation. And Councilmember Joseph, to your point, we also had a conversation about sources of funding that hopefully would not dip into the general fund. So, just kind of reiterate that that ADA accessibility for Main Street Park is a doable, practical, and a well-needed goal.
I would like just to make, spilled your water, sorry, Captain. My comment is pretty simple. I'm really happy to be a part of this commission. I think this team, regardless of prior iterations of this commission, is doing a lot of really positive work. And I think the eye that we keep on task is about the community, right? Really focused on community, what's best for the community, and what we think can really benefit the community. And the world I work in, we talk about retention and acquisition quite a bit. The retention part is maintenance, right? What do we have existing? What are the things we work on? That's part of the replacement and repair fund, right? And we talk a lot about that during the commission meetings. What's the life cycle of equipment, or what's the life cycle of a particular usage, and what does that look like, and how can we stage that over this year, next year, or 5 years, or 10 years down the road, and what's the cost of the replacement? So I think we are really addressing those in I think a mindful way, with an eye on accessibility to all that. The other part of it too is naming, which is fun. I just figured out which COM 1 and which was COM 2. I always got them backwards. But simply, one could be east and one could be west, right? That's pretty simple. No, I know there's probably a better process for that. But yeah, and I think that as a commission, you know, this group here, we really spent a lot of time deliberating very openly, and I think we'll do a lot of good work. So we appreciate your confidence in that.
Better take a turn, or you'll wonder. I have to say that I really appreciate having dedicated funding source for repair and replacement, because that has not been, and it's always been something that's come up, and community members have always been very upset that we aren't taking care of what we have. So I'm very happy that we have that. And I like the idea of looking at things, because I know there's a long list, and prioritizing, and I know that's something we've discussed, but also looking at it with accessibility in mind. So having that feedback is very helpful. So thank you for that. And definitely makes sense. I didn't even know that we could look at renaming the two parks, and I never know which one's which either. So we just say Bye Boys and Girls Club or the other one. So I appreciate that, and I think it makes sense to do it all at one time as well, and use our time wisely by doing all three at the same time. So thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you very much for your feedback and for your appreciation of the work that we've done. We're very proud of the work that we've done, and we hope to continue that work and represent the community and do parks improvement and maintenance and continuing projects that will bring our community outdoors even more than they already are. So thank you for that. I definitely agree with renaming. I think that that's great. I think the sooner the better. We can make that quick. I remember when we did a naming for the high school, and it was quite a long process, and it's American Canyon High School. So I don't think it needs to be super drawn out to get to a resolution. Access for Main Street Park. I sort of get a vision of Veterans Park in Napa at first. Wait, let me think about this. 3rd and Main, how you have the built-in concrete benches, and so you can still keep it as a retention, you know, as drainage if necessary, but then it can actually be utilized and accessible, and there's that long ramp. So just perhaps as a potential blueprint. And while we're putting in restrooms at all these great places like Silver Oak and Wetlands, I think it is an opportune time to add a 3rd restroom to that list at the Newell Trailhead open space, because we're going to be developing that area. We have Watson Ranch coming, we have the hotel coming, and people hopefully will be utilizing that trail a lot more. So it would be really great to have a restroom there as well. There is no other place to use the restroom anywhere in close proximity unless you were to walk up the hill to the hotel. So I think that would be wonderful to add that. And relative to Clark Ranch, I would just like to say that I am out there quite a bit, and Spirit Horse is expanding, and 4-H is expanding, and fencing is getting put up, and they did have a great fundraiser on Saturday. And so there's lots of great things happening out there without a master vision plan by the people who are out there every day, day in and day out. It's getting a lot of community attention. I've been out there on several occasions where people have come out and they're not really open, but they just want to go see the horses and they want to know what it's all about. And of course that comes with its own set of unique complexities, because there are large animals out there. So we don't just want people letting their 4-year-old run into the arena to pet Lexi, but we do want to encourage community members to come out there and see what it's all about. And so it's great that that is sort of happening. So it's a kind of like a great time to capitalize on that. And, the shade structure out at Wetlands, if we're going to do that and do an open classroom, I think that it's also an opportune time to wrap into like a botanical garden, some trailways in that area for the students to walk and community members to walk, and sort of expand that triangular area to the south. Whoever said that, I think Councilmember Joseph. So those are my thoughts, and thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments from the commission?
Yeah, just one last thing. I just wanted to, sorry, I don't know if I could cut you short here, Charlie. Yeah, I just wanted to add, maybe with this whole renaming the parks would be a good segue to, maybe adding a slogan. Maybe we could I had a quote from, some advocates from the past, social justice, environmentalists. That would be ideal, something that we could just have more meeting and have our community, just kind of have that representation of, more elaborate of what's going on with the parks and why we're naming them a certain, for a certain reason. And then, and then the last thing that I would like to add is just the repair and replacement fund. Going back to that, is it'd be nice to see if we could work on, for us to work on a plan on how we're dealing with this current maintenance before we jump on to, the repair and replacement fund. Because as if we've seen Kimberly, a brand new park and it's falling apart. The turf is not there. We have reclaimed water, and I would just like to see how we're going to deal with what we have now before we move forward, and making sure that we have a plan to take care of the parks now before we start investing, and we're not keeping up with the maintenance.
Setting priorities, if I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr.
Right,
Mayor,
other comments?
A clarification point, because I think the maintenance is a good point, but could that be incorporated into the Parks and Community Services master plan, or is that something else? Because theoretically, the master plan would include maintenance schedules and safety checks and so on, so, okay.
Do you mind, Jason? Thank you, Councilmember Joseph. So Felix Hernandez and myself, although he is leaving on Friday. Friday is his last day. This has been a conversation that we've been having for quite some time, both about Community Park 1, which we all know we are going to be focusing on that park over the next year to get that into a playable condition. The fields, that's Community Park 1, right? Yeah, the one with the baseball field and the football field that's used for soccer and football and baseball. And the thing about Com Park 1 and Kimberly Park, they were never designed to be athletic fields. They are neighborhood parks that have athletic features. And the one thing that Felix and I have been talking about is maintaining them to be athletic fields. And Com Park 1 is a perfect example of having a neighborhood park that's used for athletic activity that's not maintained to be an athletic field. And so this is a conversation that we're having internally because we're recognizing that. To Commissioner Garcia Ariola's point, is Kimberly Park is a beautiful park, but if we don't start maintaining it to be an athletic field, it's going to turn and look out like Com Park 1, and we're going to be in the same position. So we've recognized that internally, and so we need to do our homework and figure out, is this more of an in-house thing that we have our staff do, or do we work with a landscaper that comes in to do that maintenance? Because this is something that we know that we're going to continue to have that type of use. We're going to continue to support the football leagues, the soccer leagues, the baseball leagues here in American Canyon. But we also need to make sure that those fields are in a condition that are for those type of athletics. So to that point, that is happening internally. This is something that is part of the maintenance team, and that we have recognized that we need to spend some time and really address. So thank you.
And there is some limited funds for the Kimberly Park, to maintain or at least restore some of the issues, so.
Sure.
But good, thank you.
Okay.
Are we at the point
We
where
have a,
somebody
point.
needs to make a
We're at
motion?
that point.
Number 99-03.
If we've all talked long enough,
Yeah.
I would be happy to make a motion that we adopt the Parks and Community Services Commission work plan for fiscal year 23-24 as clarified.
I will second.
Okay. Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Wait, I have a question, a clarifying question. As clarified, meaning
Yeah, okay,
adding
just,
adding the potentially the ramp and the renaming of the parks, not adding all the stuff that Gina said and everybody and the commissioner said.
yeah, mainly just clarified in my mind is we've had an hour's discussion over things that could be clarified as part of what does the repair and replacement fund mean. And
Okay.
the specific addition would be renaming both Community Parks 1 and 2, along with Napa Junction Elementary.
Understood. In that case, I vote yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council. Thank you, commissioners.
Mayor, before we adjourn this evening, I want to just offer a special thank you. We didn't have a chance to really properly close our council meeting earlier, but Felix is departing. I want to thank him for all of his efforts these past several years, and particularly the efforts to get what is soon to be something else, Junction Elementary School, ready for the summer camp that started today. Yvonne Scott also played a significant role, Bill Dotson with Yeoman's effort getting that facility ready, as did Brian Matern as well. So really thanks for all those folks, because that summer camp started today.
Wow.
Sign up now.
All right, that's exciting stuff. Okay, we have concluded our work for the evening, council. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night, American Canyon.
Thank you very much.
Can't walk down there.